All right. I think we're live. Let's see. All right. Let's just see one thing here. Just moving some stuff around on my screen, and I didn't do any kind of warning or anything for the stream, so hopefully some people will come in and let me know if my audio is all right. Should be all right. I mean, it's been okay all this time, so but you never know with this technical stuff. But yeah, first let me shout out Topher at Biocharisma Podcast. Definitely, check out his YouTube channel and subscribe there. And I think he's probably on other platforms too. I'm not really good with social media, but we had a great conversation recently. Awesome, pushing buttons. Good to see you, man. Thanks. But yeah, Topher and I had a great conversation. So definitely check that out if you're interested, and just check out his channel too, of course. Topher is one of the few people on the internet really who could have this, kind of high level conversation about the Mandela effect. So hopefully, more people start coming around. Hey, Buddha and Rolly, good to see you guys. Oh, awesome! That's great to hear. Buddha is caught up and ready for the new episode. Me too. So actually, this is going to be kind of a continuation of the previous stream because I didn't get to finish everything I had in that folder, and I added some stuff also. Um, so this is going to be basically the last two live streams, and then the one after this also will all be basically about the twin pillars and they're merging into the central pillar. Yeah, Buddha, thanks. Yeah, please hit the likes, everyone. I appreciate it. Um, yeah, so the first one, two live streams ago, was basically about the twin pillars and their, individuality. And these are basically like our twin spirits. And what's basically happening in these end times is our twin spirits are merging into one spirit. So we're either going to be ruled by our right pillar, which is the moon, our spirituality, our more like Jesus, side, or we'll be ruled by our left pillar, which is the sun, or like the physical minded side, or like the Antichrist side, or the Lucifer side. So hopefully, I think we all in this group want to be ruled by our right pillar, and that also doesn't mean to get rid of our left pillar. We integrate, both to become a complete human. We just want to be more spiritually minded and Christ minded, because Jesus is the path to God at the top of the central pillar, where you see the number 9. So these um, screenshots are from previous videos of mine. So I've shown these before, so I'll just go through them really quick. Um, See this spiritual and physical worlds merging, and when they merge, we get this Vesica Pisces symbol at the central pillar at the North Pole, because this represents the center of our world. And that's what we're going to be focusing again on today. And then hopefully I get through it all. And then next time we'll be doing this, which is when they're fully merged. And this is the eclipse, or the corona at the central pillar at the North Pole. So here we have the union of the twin pillars plays out on the world stage, on the Earth itself, and inside of ourselves, and in the Mandela effect, as do all of these various topics that we've been talking about. Hey, Rebecca, good to see you. That's awesome to hear. Thanks. I'm glad you're here. So here you can see the left would be like the black pillar, and the right would be the white pillar. And when they're merged, they make this black and white pattern. And the pattern can be anything. This is kind of like the Twin Peaks floor pattern that we see from David Lynch, who's a big, world script writer and director, or at least he was. But typically, this would be more like a chessboard. People call it like a checkered pattern. I usually think of it as a chess pattern, because this is like the game of chess between the twin pillars, and this is what all the world controllers are basically obsessed with. Um, so this is a 100% Mandela effect for me. This poster for the movie Cocoon. It, the O's were definitely not, conjoined or merged together like this, forming the Vesica Pisces. They were two separate O's, and I've gone over this poster before. Basically, we have the dome, the water mirror reflection of the dome, the blue beam that's essentially charging here, and we'll get into some of this symbolism here too. But you basically see the pole, like the North Pole, shooting through the top of the dome. Hey, Moneybags, good to see you, man. Moneybags is the man. I've talked about him before, but obviously, go check him out and subscribe to him. He's one of if not the top people in the world on the Mandela effect. So I've learned a lot from his channel, and he does awesome videos too. If you're not familiar, where you basically vote, if you experience that particular Mandela effect or not, so you could see how many people actually are experiencing the same, or have the same memories that we do. And usually it's overwhelming on one side. Some of them are kind of like 50-50, but for the most part, it's an overwhelming amount. Um, so so this is just like a quick recap of what we talked about last video, because I wanted to just reinforce how many examples there are on the world stage. So here, this is Invasion of the Body Snatchers. These people are carrying cocoons, basically, or pods. Hey, Gift of Water, good to see you. Absolutely, it's my pleasure to be here. It's an honor. So in this Invasion of the Body Snatchers movie, they're carrying these, essentially cocoon pods. And we have alien imposters replicating asleep people with cocoon pods. Oh, and someone also commented that they couldn't see the bottom right corner of the screen. So a couple things. I've already addressed it, but I'm just using like the bare bones like YouTube live stream software, and there aren't really too many options with that. But when you see these screenshots of, especially when there's like text on the bottom, these are just stills from my previous videos. So I highly recommend checking out those previous videos. They're kind of like pre-produced music videos, but I think that they're really helpful in teaching people to be able to see the all the world script symbolism for themselves. Like here I'm explaining it, and I realize that that's helpful in a different way, but I feel like the music videos are even more helpful if you want to actually start seeing the signs and symbols for yourself. Hey, Roxy and Nate, good to see you guys. So here we have the Killer Clowns movie that we talked about, and if you notice, this is basically the same exact scene, even though you wouldn't think these two movies are related. But again, these are aliens, putting people in cocoon pods, or doing something to basically drain energy out of people with these cocoons or pods. And here we have the Matrix, the same thing. You have these endless fields of people in pods, essentially, being drained of their energy, like batteries, like Morpheus tells Neo. And here we have the a lot of spider symbolisms. This is all the Kraken symbolism. Whenever you see the spider in these kinds of movies, here's the battery symbolism that we talked about. When we have our twin pillars, they essentially act like a battery. So the left would be there's two types of batteries, but in the galvanic cell, and we talked about this too, but the left would be the negative and the right would be the positive, or the cathode. Hey, unindoctrinated, good to see you, man. And I think someone else. Horseradish, good to see you, man. Yeah, glad you guys are here. So here's the movie Daybreakers. This is like a vampire movie, and like I don't think a lot of people really heard about this movie, but it's a huge world script movie. And here you could see how the vampires are storing humans, basically in pods. Like they're not exactly in pods, but it's like the same symbolism, the same scene as The Matrix and other movies. Here we have V, the um, basically a miniseries, a TV miniseries that had essentially aliens, imposter aliens again, and they're capturing humans and storing them in these endless rooms of cocoon pods for energy. And here we have Logan's Run, another huge world script movie. And do I have any? Yeah, so Logan and I forget the girl's name, but they go through this corridor here that's run by a robot named Box. Yeah, you can see that. But it's also like the cube, which I have there, which you can't see. But I'm not going to get into the box and cube symbolism yet, partly because I don't 100% know it, but we'll get there. And here we have It's funny, guys. Just checking out the chat. So let's see. There's Logan seeing all the people. Now, this is a movie called Super 8 that we talked about. Another huge world script movie about an alien kraken again that steals humans and basically hangs them in these cocoon pods for energy again. And the main characters are under the water tower. This is a huge symbol, this water tower. And we've talked about it. We'll talk about it again, but I don't want to get too off track. I want to kind of finish what we've got in this folder here. But yeah, Super 8, it's another, Spielberg and J.J. Abrams movie. So these guys are obviously huge world scripters, and so is Stephen King, who made The Mist, or he wrote the book The Mist. And I think Frank Darabont directed it, who's also the guy who directed The Shawshank Redemption, which is another Stephen King movie. And all these movies are huge world script devices. Anything from Stephen King, Steven Spielberg, these are like the two biggest. And Steven Spielberg, he doesn't always direct the movie, like Gremlins, for instance, but he produces them. So he's, for whatever reason, if he's like some kind of fallen angel or whatever he is, he's behind like hundreds of these world script movies and TV series. Like Under the Dome too, I think he produced that. But that's also a Stephen King story. So here, this was from The Mist. Here we have a video game where people are stored in cocoon pods by, again, alien body snatchers for energy. This is Mass Effect, the video game series. This is the island. And if you want to see more of this, check out my previous live stream or my previous pre-produced videos. This is The Island by Michael Bay, who's another huge world scripter. And you can see here there's clones basically stored for energy in these, like, it's not exactly a cocoon pod, but it's like a cocoon pod room, like we see in all these other things like Matrix and Daybreakers. Here we have Star Wars. This is the Attack of the Clones, one of the prequels, where they have all these clones stored in all these little cocoon pods, and they're different ages. These are like the baby ones. And then they're basically MK Ultra, like the clones in the island, and with Order 66 and 66. Whenever that comes up, that's the twin number. That order basically activates them to carry out the beast system's will, essentially. And here we have the biggest anime series ever, One Piece, where they have another clone army that's under the banner of this group called Germa 66. So here are just growing more, clones for energy, essentially, in cocoon pods. And here's Under the Dome I was just talking about. And like this show has literally nothing to do with body snatchers and cocoon pods and all that, but in the third season, that's what it's all about. Is most of the characters get essentially body snatched and put into these cocoon pods, and then inside these cocoon pods they live inside of essentially a fake world, a fake reality. And that's what we see in the Matrix. That's what we see in a bunch of these movies. They're in like a fake reality. In the show 1899 on Netflix, they're in a fake reality inside of cocoon pods. It's one of the characters. So this is another Stephen King story where all the people are essentially body snatched by this. It looks like a clown, but it's essentially an alien kraken, spider entity that body snatches them. Again, it's like the same thing as Super 8 and all these other stories, like how we see all the spider kraken creatures or robots in the Matrix. It's essentially the kraken body snatching people and using them for energy, which is possibly why we all feel like we have our energy being sucked out of us all the time. But we also might be sending that energy towards the blue beam to be powering that up. So it could be both things. Which, but I think when this reset happens, we'll be getting that energy back, tenfold, and it's going to be awesome. So these are the Alien movies. Yeah, unindoctrinated. Writing the word Pisces. That's a big Mandela effect for me, anyway, because the Vesica Pisces used to end with an es, and now it ends with an is, and we'll get into those individual letter changes in the future. But I have heard people say that it isn't a Mandela effect for them, but it is for me. I never saw is. I always saw it with es. So here we have the Alien movies again. The Kraken alien, body snatcher, storing humans like spider cocoons. Like when a spider wraps up its prey, it's also called a cocoon. And the spider is, of course, symbolic of the Kraken. And these aliens, they have different forms. And the first form, when they come out of the pod, it basically looks like a kraken with tentacles that goes around the person's face. And then they have like a tentacle tail that wraps around their throat. so they can't breathe. And this, I can't breathe symbolism is also a huge part of the world script. And I think that's also another byproduct of us being in this like cocoon stage where it's literally difficult to breathe, for a lot of people anyway. It is for me. I know that. Um, Aliens. Here's another alien movie, Alien Resurrection, where they literally have people inside of these cocoon pods with the other alien pods, and they're asleep. So this sleeping symbolism, when you see people asleep, and usually when you see people die, also, it's all about spirituality. So these people are symbolically spiritually asleep. And when you see dead people being like possessed by the Kraken, or it's like a zombie army or something, they're the spiritually dead, like in Dark City, the Kraken aliens, and they are literally Kraken aliens, because when they're killed, this like little Kraken tentacly alien comes out of the bodies and dies, and they literally say that they use their dead bodies as vessels, but they're not talking about actual dead bodies. They're talking about the spiritually dead, because the spiritually dead is who the Kraken inhabits and controls, not the spiritually alive. That's the Christ-minded people. So here's 1899, where the people are in these cocoon pods under mind control, living in fake realities. Here's Event Horizon, where in a lot of these space movies, the people will be in these cocoon pods essentially, and this is like a what's it called? Suspended animation, I think, and that's also ties into the whole puppet symbolism too, because a puppet is in suspended animation. And space, whenever you hear space, it means multiple things, but ultimately I think it means the space in our heads. So these people are in cocoon pods, and at least the doctor, he's having a nightmare in space, and he becomes like the antichrist, character in this, and that nightmare leads to his left pillar, taking him over essentially, and he becomes like a destroyer character, because the left pillar is the pillar of destruction, and the right pillar is the pillar of preservation. This is another huge anime show called Naruto, and in this, at the end of this show, all the people in the world basically are put into these cocoon pods. So I have written here a spell cast on a blood moon that wraps the entire world in cocoon pods and forces them to live in a fake dream world. So again, this is like the Matrix and these other movies where these people in these cocoon pods are living in a fake world. And here you can see that it's thousands, and the whole world basically. So billions of people, and they're essentially attached to the roots of the dead world tree, which is at the center North Pole, and it resembles the Kraken's tentacles, as you can see here. So these people are hanging under these roots. And this dead world tree, this is often the symbol for the North Pole, because right now we live in the world of the dead, essentially, the spiritually dead, but it's coming back to life. So, it's good news. But while it's dead, the North Pole is often shown as a dead tree or a chopped off tree, like a trunk, like Devil's Tower, for instance, or like a skull, like Skull Mountain. And you'll see that in a lot of things. And one of the bigger examples is like He-Man, like Castle Grayskull. And here you can see an even wider picture where they basically show you the flat, disc shape of the place that we're at. And this is like the spell being cast essentially from the apex dome, and it puts the whole world um, into a fake dream world essentially. And there's a few heroes that aren't, in that dream world, and they're the ones responsible for freeing the rest of the world from this fake dream world. So here we see Salvador Dali looking very strange, as usual. But this we talked about this egg symbolism also comes into play. So this would be like the dome, and this would be like the beam shooting up through the dome that cracks it. And this also is like the apex dome, the inverted dome at the top, and again with the beam going up into it. But like a lot of these old famous artworks and everything, egg symbolism, dome symbolism. It's in everything. It's in architecture. It's in everything around us. Even all the plants and animals around us, like they show us in Lost. Like this whole world was basically designed to show us all these messages about the world script and about our evolution, or de-evolution or devolution. So in Lost, Locke is basically comparing Charlie here to the moth inside of this cocoon, and Charlie is trying to overcome his drug addiction, and Locke is saying, I could give you back your drugs, which is the same as me putting my knife into this cocoon and opening it up a little bit so that the moth has an easier time getting out. But if I did that, then when the moth got out of the cocoon, it would just die right away because it wouldn't be strong enough to survive in this world. So he's basically like the god, character who has control over this cocoon, but he knows that it's best for the moth to stay in the cocoon as long as possible because that will make it as strong as possible. And I think that's God's mentality with us. A lot of people are like, where's God? Why aren't we getting, help in certain ways? And we do get help in certain ways, but not with other things. And it's because those other things that we're dealing with, whether they're, traumatic or whatever, they're things that we need in order to become spiritually stronger for the world after this reset. And here's the show Fringe, which is also made by the same people who made Lost, and it's also J.J. Abrams who made that Super 8 and a bunch of other. He made the Star Wars movies, the Star Trek movies. So he's like kind of like the new Spielberg basically. But we talked about this butterfly symbolism. So this butterfly symbolism also ties to the cocoon and pod symbolism, of course, and also evolution, because the butterfly goes from a non-flying being to a flying being, and what we're going through as people is we want to become like spiritually a flying being like Superman, basically. I noticed too how they're now tying the Charlie incident to Superman. They're calling him the Man of Steel, and things like that. And his initials are CK, like Clark Kent. That's not an accident. That they're purposefully putting that out there in relation to him. And he's got the Free Dome shirt, and his name means like the free people of the Church of the Free Man, basically, is what his name means. And so there's a lot going on there with that symbolism. So it shows how the world stage echoes the world script in these movies and TV shows, and in the Mandela effect also. So here's a Nightmare on Elm Street. The main character, when she grabs her pills to stay awake, she has the higher chakra colors with her towel and the butterfly and all that. And here's the stay awake pills. And then the very next thing that they show us is the door, which used to be a red door, but now it's a blue door, which I think is a very good sign from God. So here's the Avengers. We talked about all these in the previous stream. I just want, like, when you see them over and over, it really becomes apparent in my opinion. So the Avengers, this is the Ultron movie. So they're trying to figure out what Ultron wants to do. So this guy is the Hulk. He looks at this picture of a butterfly and he goes, he wants to evolve. So again, they're showing the evolution symbol with the butterfly, and also this does kind of look like a six, but it's also kind of like the 88. You know, the 88 is associated with this evolution and the butterfly and all that. And I showed you guys how there's even a butterfly with 88 on its wings, which might actually even be a Mandela effect. So this is Life Force that has a ton of world scripting in it, and this woman who's been basically body snatched by the alien Kraken entity. She has a butterfly in her room. They use a butterfly. The main character basically rescues the princess from the castle with a butterfly-like contraption. And this is Tron Legacy. The Tron movies are also loaded with stuff. I haven't seen Tron Ares though. I don't even know if it came out yet. This is a Free Guy. He represents the blue beam. He's literally called Blue Shirt Guy. So when he breaks through the protective dome or the barrier, he ends up in paradise, and he's got all these butterflies and dragonflies flying around him. This is under the dome. They find a smaller dome with a black egg in the center. Essentially, this is like Rupus nigra. It's also like the thalamus in our head, if this whole thing is symbolic of our head. And then there's a caterpillar which forms a cocoon, and then it comes out as a monarch butterfly, which is symbolic of the king symbolism. And Jesus is the King of Kings. So what God is doing is essentially growing, new kings with this cocoon. And this character has the yellow and blue butterfly. Um, let's see. We got the uh, butterflies surrounding the dome and under the dome. And literally, this character says, Maybe it's trying to tell us that the dome is just a cocoon. Oh, is my I haven't been keeping up with the chat. Sorry. Is my voice terrible? I don't really feel that good today, and I've tried a lot of different things, so I appreciate the suggestions, but I unfortunately have a chronic illness, and I don't want to get too into it, but I'm just trying to get through a day, one day at a time here, and get all this information out to you guys. I apologize for the nasally voice sometimes, but this is the best I can do. Yeah, so here Stephen King is basically saying that the dome is just a cocoon. Here's the monarch symbolism. So here we see inside the brain is the butterfly symbolism. If you crosscut our literal brains, this is why they do the MK Ultra stuff. And this is also in our spinal cord. It looks like a butterfly flying up our spines because this is how we're evolving essentially, in a spiritual way. All right, so that was the stuff we talked about previously. If you want to see more of it, check out my previous live stream or previous videos, of course. So now we'll get into some newer stuff. This is some more examples. So this Resident Evil poster, this has the extended R. I think we talked about that, and some connecting letters, and also Mila Jovovich's name has the extra L. No, definitely was not like that. Survive the horror. That's a good motto for us to live by. Here's another cover. Uh, so this is like a newer Resident Evil. I haven't seen these movies. I saw the first one a long time ago, but they're very there's a lot of symbolism going on in them. I've seen like certain scenes from them. I noticed too this one apparently is in Las Vegas, which is a big North Pole symbol. Let's see. It's like the shadow self duality, right pillar, left pillar symbolism with the two posters. This looks like, it's probably a Mandela effect too with the extended X here, like the R. Um, so this is one of the scenes I was made aware of in this Extinction movie. And notice it's Constantine. Also, it's interesting company. These production companies are all very symbolic as well. They're definitely worth looking at and noting. So Hollywood usually shows us the dark side of these cocoons, like the devolution of man into beast. Usually it's like clones. Usually it's some kind of body snatching thing or some kind of negative thing. It doesn't always have to be, and I'll show you some positive ones. Like Under the Dome is positive for the most part. So her name actually in these movies is Alice. So again with the Alice, that's the same name as the girl Elle Fanning. So she has the L name in real life, and then her name is Alice in Super 8. So it's always these same names, like Alice in Wonderland, of course. And also it ties to iPet Goat too, with the Alice character in that, and that's essentially the yellow and blue Christ in the underworld, you know, dying for us basically, in iPet Goat too. It's like the Christ sacrifice. So Hollywood usually okay, got that. So she's in this room where there's the all endless cocoons, clones of Alice, and in Gremlins we got let's see. So they literally watch Invasion of the Body Snatchers in Gremlins as they fall asleep on the night. So we're in the night right now of our cycle, and on the night that their cocoons form. So like this is literally the 1956, I think, Invasion of the Body Snatchers movie they're playing because Spielberg and the director Joe Dante, they're they're showing the audience that the cocoons that the gremlins are from are related to this body snatching stuff. They could have played, any movie here. And here's the cocoons for the gremlins. And here they're falling asleep. So again, this is like the spiritual sleep when the cocoons are forming. So here's this show, Secret Invasion, from it's on Disney Plus, I think. I actually did watch this because it's a body snatching show. It's not very good, but it's got a lot of interesting world script symbolism in it for sure. Here's another poster for that. So that the intro has a lot of interesting symbols too, and here we have the chessboard, and they even turn the chessboard like everything kind of moves because this is all about shapeshifters and body snatchers. This show, and it almost looks like the Space Needle type symbolism up here on the. I think this is the king, could be the queen, I guess. Not really sure, but it looks more like the king, I guess. But anyway, this is one of the main characters, and he's speaking with the villain, and he threatens the villain, and what he doesn't realize is that everyone around him is part of this Kraken hive mind. Um, hey, Awakened Saint, good to see you, man. Yeah, Awakened Saint's got a good channel too. Definitely check him out and subscribe to him. And he's actually a pilot, from what I understand. So it's always interesting to get a pilot's perspective on the shape of the Earth stuff. So when he threatens this guy, everyone turns into, essentially clones of him because they've all been body snatched, or they're all like alien shapeshifters, one or the other. Um, so this guy realizes he's in a room full of the Kraken army. So like when we are in a room full of people, um, you might just think that they're all individuals, but that's really not the case anymore. Like these people can be triggered to fight for the um, Kraken army at any time. The news just has to, you know, give them like a little bit of trauma and a little bit of, direction. And the people around us, for the most part, can turn into this, Kraken hive mind, and they'll want to, round up the people who can think for themselves. And it's like all the 1984 type movies. Um, so they hear he like gives them a command to go back to normal. So this guy realizes, the world that he's in. So this is a little violent, but so this guy's a shape-shifting alien too, and this woman who's like with the government, she shoots him, and they always make a point when it's this body snatcher stuff to go right for the third eye area. So she shoots him right in the third eye, and the same thing happens with Don Cheadle here, who's an imposter as well, a shape-shifting imposter. And this is like the black goo essentially coming from the third eye. It's also the color of third eye chakra, basically. Because this is all about the space inside of our heads. That's what they want to body snatch. They want to have us have a left pillar takeover of this space. They want the Antichrist to rule this space. This is like the throne inside of our temple, basically. The system wants the Antichrist to sit on that throne in our temple. But for all of us truth seekers, we want, Jesus to sit on that throne. It's going to be one or the other. So here they find a room full of people just like in the island, and these are all like cocoon pod people, and they have all these tentacles going into these cocoon pods, and they're under mind control also, right at the temples. And then the heroes come and they save everyone. So this is like the real Don Cheadle. He's been put in this like cocoon pod thing, and they take like a veil off of his face, so that's removing the veil, which is also a big symbol with the third eye. It's like in Solomon's temple, they have the Ark of the Covenant behind a veil, because the Ark of the Covenant is essentially again like our third eye. The whole thing is symbolic of our head, basically. And Masonic temples are like that too, I think. So like when that veil is lifted, then like we actually have access to this connection with God or with the Antichrist, but with God hopefully, and God steers us with the Holy Spirit and communicates with us. It's not like a person standing in front of you talking to you, but this is how God is choosing to communicate with us at this time. Through our third eye crystals. And we want the white clear crystals, not the black crystals. And they often show us the black crystals, which are essentially the white crystals like coated in black goo, like from the V. And they often show, like in the event horizon, that room is symbolic of our third eye, the engine room, and there's all black spikes all around it, because that's like the black crystal spikes in the third eye of a person who's been to hell. And they even say that this ship or this space vessel has been to hell. So it's all symbolic of us. And this guy, Martin Freeman, again with the free man symbolism. So like Morgan Freeman and Martin Freeman, these two guys are in a lot of world script stuff, and I think it's because of their name, free man, and the name Charlie, like we saw recently with the new stuff. Charlie means free man, so that's why a lot of that comes up so much. And this particular guy, he's in a lot of stuff. He's in like the Hobbit movies. He's in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is another big world script movie and book. He's obviously not in the book. Um, and he's in The World's End also. That movie's like a comedy with Simon Pegg. And Edgar Wright, I think, is the director of those movies, but he's in it too. But that's another huge world script comedy movie. There's not there are some big comedies that are very world scripty. Another one is This Is the End, I think it's called, with James Franco and those guys. So when these people are freed from their cocoon pods, they go outside and they weren't even aware that they were in, this captivity. So here's Daybreakers again. So Daybreakers has a lot of negative stuff, but it also has positive stuff. Um, Ethan Hawke, he's the main character, and he starts off the movie as a vampire, but he still has like a good heart. Like he doesn't want to be like an evil vampire like the Sam Neill character. He's trying to do the best that he can with what he's got. And at the end of the movie, they figure out how to go back to being a normal human. And the way to go back to being a normal human is to basically be trapped inside of this cocoon pod and then get blasted with sun rays, which light him on fire, like how we see with most vampires. They get like lit on fire and killed by the sun, but they're doing it in like a controlled way so he doesn't get too much sunlight. And notice how he's doing like a crossed pose, a Christ pose, and it's also like a bat, because like a bat is also like it's like a dark phoenix symbol. Like we want to be a little more like a bird um in like the day, and like a bat's like a creature of the night, that type of thing. But this is also the phoenix symbolism. Whenever you see like a person on fire like this, like the burning man, especially if they, come out of it and they're not they usually become like a more evolved person, like in Game of Thrones, if you've seen that. Daenerys in the first season, she goes into a fire and everyone thinks that she's dead, but then she comes out and she's, much more than when she went into the fire in the first place. So that's what we're seeing here in Daybreakers. And of course, Game of Thrones is another huge world script TV show. I haven't even really talked about that too much, but I'm sure I will in the future. So yeah, we have the Christ symbolism, the Phoenix symbolism. Here he is, on fire with the Phoenix fire. And when he's done, he becomes a normal human again. So he survived the traumatic cocoon and became a real living human again. And you could argue that throughout our whole lives, we haven't even really been real living humans. Like we've been like alive, but not with Christ's energy and life force and all the magic and everything that comes with that. We're going to find out what being a real human is all about, I think, pretty soon. And here again, you have the male and female doing the M handhold. This is like the M mountain symbolism at the North Pole. And even the car he drives. Now, this is a black car, which generally isn't a good thing, but this movie is kind of more like about the dark phoenix symbolism. But on his car, he's got the phrase "From the ashes springs new life." So this really had, this car had nothing to do with that scene in the cocoon. But again, we have this, phoenix symbolism, and this is essentially the phoenix vessel. But it's usually not a good thing to have a black or a red car in these types of movies. And here we have the Firebird symbolism, which is, of course, the phoenix. And in The Hobbit, this is the second Hobbit movie. A lot going on in these posters. I don't want to get too into it. I think I've talked about a lot of them before too. So, I mean, The Hobbit's all about the dragon at the North Pole Mountain guarding the gold inside of the mountain. Um, and when you see like the color yellow too, that's usually referring to the gold, like in the mountain, with this particular symbolism. Um, so let's see. Here we actually in this poster too, we kind of have like so Gandalf, he's of course a Christ character, and he's got like the spear, going up through the dome. And if you think that's a coincidence, I'll be showing you how they constantly do the spear through the dome or through the Kraken symbolism in these Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies. And also this desolation of smog, it calls back to this Antichrist stuff in the Great Tribulation, in my opinion. So therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation, so like when they have a word like desolation in a movie title, it's not like lost. Oh, you might not be able to see that. Let's see. Yeah, I don't really have too many options with this. I forget how times. Oh, I guess I just zoomed in. Sorry. But anyway, when you see this word desolation, like the producers of the Hobbit movies, they obviously know all about the Bible, so they're not. This isn't lost on them. Is all I'm saying. And it comes up other times too. It's not a word that people often use. So they're tying these Hobbit movies to the end times. And in that Desolation of Smog movie, the main characters get the dwarves and Bilbo. They get stuck in this spider forest, and these spiders put them in cocoon pods. And here you have like the black spike tentacles and all that. And here's Bilbo inside of his cocoon pod. And I talked about this before because that was more like the negative aspect, but this is the positive aspect. So Bilbo, he's asleep inside his cocoon pod, so this is bad, but he wakes up. So waking up inside the cocoon pod is what we're doing essentially. And not only does he wake up, but he has his sword with him too. And we need the sword to defeat the Kraken, which is why one of the messages God sent us with these merged logos is a book about Richard Nixon, which I don't think necessarily has anything to do with it. But the name of the book is "I Gave Them a Sword," and I've shown that a lot in the past too. And then there's a ton of sword symbolism in the Mandela effect as well. So God is giving us this sword so that when we wake up with the inside of this cocoon pod, we'll have this sword of truth essentially to free ourselves from the pod and from the Kraken. So these giant spiders, of course, represent the Kraken, and then Bilbo shoots his sword up right through the center of the Kraken, so this is basically the blue beam shooting up, through the dome and then through the Kraken plasma that's outside of the dome, and pushing it away essentially because the blue beam plasma versus the Kraken plasma, they're like magnetic repulsion basically. They're not going to be in the same place at the same time. So we want to be where this blue beam energy is. We don't want to get, hit with this Kraken energy. And we need the sword in order to do that. And that isn't just any sword. It's a sword that glows blue because it represents the blue beam. And I know it's not glowing blue here, but it only glows blue under certain situations, but it is the blue beam. And this is excuse me for a second. Sorry, not really feeling the best today. Um, but this is one of the spider krakens falling out of the trees after Bilbo killed it, basically. And the kraken, it always falls. So this falling symbolism is again like the like spiritually fallen. Like you'll see people like zombies in zombie movies, they'll usually fall at some point, or anyone who's like a spiritually fallen character, or the kraken falls and Christ rises. So the blue beam rises up and the kraken tentacles, like the Medusa hair and all that, that comes down. And if you want to see more, I talk about in pretty much every stream, but if you want to see or hear more about all this plasma apocalypse symbolism, I learned it from Jay Dreamers, and he's got a ton of information on it. So here, Bilbo is now the hero, and he's able to defeat these spiders because he has his sword and he has his wedding ring, or his eclipse corona ring, or his crown. The corona is like the crown. So he has the crown and the sword. And he's basically stabbing, even though they have like a bunch of eyes, he's like stabbing the spider like in that central third eye area. And then when he's done with the spiders, he frees his friends from the cocoon. So again, this comes up a lot too. Like I don't know if the whole world is going to be free at some point. There's a couple of options on how that could go, but there's a lot of these stories where the heroes, free themselves, but then they go back to free the other people as well who are trapped in the cocoons. Um, so that happens in Logan's Run, for instance. It happens here in the Hobbit movies, and it's been in a few of them. It's hard to remember exactly, but I've talked about them before. And then what he does after he frees his friends is he climbs to the top of the trees. Oh, this actually happens before. It's a little out of order in the movie, but the symbolism is that once you're free of this spider nest, kraken area, you climb to the top of the forest, and at the top of the trees, Bilbo can breathe, and there's blue butterflies flying all around. So this is really positive symbolism. And the dwarves at the bottom of the trees are asking him what he sees at the top of the trees. So he says, I see a lake. So here we have the lake at the North Pole. And then he says, I see a river. And then one of the rivers, one of the four rivers. This is like the Garden of Eden at the center, essentially, or paradise. And then he, clears the way and he goes, oh, and I see the Lonely Mountain. And here's the Lonely Mountain. So so he got to the top of the forest because he spiritually rose above the Kraken, and now he's able to see or perceive the North Pole Mountain or the Garden of Eden or paradise. And here in Lord of the Rings, we have the same thing. So this came out, 10 to 15 years earlier, and here we have the spider kraken over the dome essentially. And Frodo is going towards the Dark Tower. This is another North Pole symbol. So we have the Dark Tower at the North Pole. This is kind of like the split mountain symbolism, also. And above him is the Kraken entity. And then he gets stabbed with this black needle, basically. And when he gets stabbed with the black needle, here's the Kraken, tentacles like making a dome kind of, and it wraps him up in a cocoon, a spider cocoon. And then what's the first thing we see is the hero coming to save the day, and the first thing we see is his sword, and it's Sam. And Sam not only has the sword, but he also has the light. So this is the blue beam. So now Sam comes to rescue Frodo from the spider kraken with the blue beam again. And the name Sam, it means God has heard, God hears, or name of God. So essentially, Sam, he's like the Holy Spirit helper of Frodo. Like Frodo's like us, basically. And this is the Holy Spirit who's helping him along, helping him climb the North Pole Mountain, helping him defeat the Kraken, helping him, you know, have power over the physical world, which is like the ring, like, getting rid of the ring, getting rid of the burden of that. So he wouldn't have been able to do it without Sam, who's basically, the Holy Spirit or like God character. And then Sam fights the Kraken, and in order to defeat the Kraken, he doesn't kill it because the Kraken is like an immortal entity. Also, it's like the Leviathan too in the Bible. He shoves his sword straight up, through the Kraken again. So this is the blue beam shooting up through the middle of the Kraken, which is like, the at the apex dome essentially. And then when he does that, the Kraken basically backs off and crawls back into its hole because it can't overpower the blue beam. So the blue beam plasma basically pushes away the red Kraken plasma, or the red and black Kraken plasma. It's like blue and white versus red and black, basically. I know that's not in this scene exactly, but that's what we're going to be looking at. So this is from the Harry Potter movies. I think it's the second movie. This is I think Harry and Ron and what's his face's dog. Um, it's the big guy, Hagrid, his dog. Yeah, they go to meet this giant spider, which is of course symbolic of the Kraken, and the Kraken basically says, it promised that it wouldn't kill and eat them, but all these smaller baby Krakens, which is kind of like the V, they never made that promise, so they're encircling them to basically, kill them. And then what happens is Ron's car essentially comes out of nowhere, and this is the blue car, or the blue vessel. And not only is it a blue vessel, but it has the eclipse symbol right in the back here, and this is also the broken glass symbolism, like the broken firmament, but it also looks just like the eclipse. So he's got like the eclipse, broken glass, broken firmament, blue vessel, and that's what saves him from this Kraken attack. Saves both of them. But then when they're in the car, there's a spider that attacks Ron from the side. It's like the last spider. And Harry, what does he do to get rid of the spider? He basically shoots the blue beam right at it. This is going across Ron's face. Then the blue beam hits the spider. So this is just like what we saw in The Hobbit. It's just like what we saw in Lord of the Rings and a bunch of other stuff. And then the blue beam, gets rid of the Kraken energy essentially. So going back to this cocoon symbolism, um, what we basically see here is not just the blue beam rising up through this dome, but it looks kind of like a P symbol. And then we have the X here. Now, the X often symbolizes the North Pole, especially when you see a bunch of these other symbols in conjunction with the X. Like if you just see an X, I wouldn't care. But if you see like an X and a dome and a blue beam or a kraken, or somebody saying they can't breathe, or somebody saying there's a storm coming, or an eclipse, or all these typical world script symbols, then the X definitely represents the North Pole. And this Cocoon movie is loaded with stuff. So this PX symbol, this is known as the Chi-Rho symbol, which is the first symbol for Jesus, essentially. And this is also why Christ is symbolized by a P. It's kind of like the blue beam shooting up out of the North Pole. and this is like the concentric circle. And this is also why, Christ's double would be like the Antichrist. So that's why like a PP would be the Antichrist. Or there's other letters and symbols too, where when you see them doubled, like a T would be like the cross, and then when you see like a TT, it's like the double cross or an Antichrist symbol as well. And also, this is where we likely get the word hero. Like Christ is the ultimate hero. So it's the chi rho, and it's the hero symbol. And also, the reason it's a P and an X too is because those are the first two letters of Jesus's name in Greek. So here, going to the Cocoon movie, we have these dolphins. I don't want to get too into animal stuff now, but the dolphins generally they're like a good symbol. It's kind of like the good version of the great white shark. So here we have the blue beam. I'll probably do like a whole stream on animals, plants and animals in the future, because there's a lot going on there with both with the Mandela effect and with the world script. So we see the blue beam in Cocoon. We have the water mirror as well. So these are two of the main characters. He's like the head alien or like the head angel, basically, and he's a basically a shapeshifter. So he's like a light being, but he's wearing a human suit. And this is Steve Gutenberg, like from the Police Academy movies, and he's just a normal guy. I think his name is actually Jack. So he represents just like the normal, average, right pillar guy who's trying to do the good thing, and he does do the good things at the end. Well, here he's a little weird. So he likes one of these aliens, the girl, and he does like a peeping tom type of thing, and he's looking at her. But the whole point of this scene is so that he sees that they're wearing like a fake skin. So she basically takes her skin off, and she's like a light being, and then he's like freaked out by it, and they look like this. So the movie presents them as aliens, but they're basically angels essentially. And then she sees him, it's kind of freaky, and then she puts the skin back on and goes running out to, try to smooth things over. So she has like she put the skin on like hastily. And this is what we see in like the V miniseries and a bunch of other stuff too. Like Men in Black has like the person in the human skin, and that's another big symbol too. It's this whole like imposter symbolism. So she has like this crease in her fake skin, and we saw this on the world stage too with Biden. This isn't like the best picture of it, but this is clearly somebody wearing a mask, like a hyper realistic mask, and they're you know, and this also likely was shown to us on purpose. So here you could see like the weird creases, and he's like trying to fix it. And this is also something I've seen some truth channels talk about. Where this old Michelangelo painting, it's called The Last Judgment. There's a part where this guy, these are kind of like angels up with God, and one of them is holding like a human skin, like he wears this. So this has been an idea that's been around for a long time. And if you want to look more into it, this is painting here. So Brian Dennehy comes out and like fixes her, and he says, it's hard to know who to trust with all these imposters. And then he opens his right eye a little bit. Now the right eye is a good symbol. This is the right pillar, because these are good characters, even though they're being kind of freaky here. But then here we have all the light coming out of his right eye, and here we have the old men. These are like the main characters who find the cocoons in a pool, essentially, like the alien cocoons. Looks like this, and we have the water mirror, which is the typical symbol, and these are like the domes as well. And they run and hide when the aliens come back, or the angels. And when the aliens come back, they take off their human skins and like throw them in this chest, basically. And they're like, "Oh my god, what is going on here?" And the angels, they're like flying around, and they see them, and they eventually, all become friends. And again, when you see people say Jesus, they're not just saying Jesus. Like the script writer just isn't randomly doing that. Like it could be for like a random movie, but not for these world script movies. That they often say Jesus or Christ or Jesus Christ when it references, either a positive aspect or the Antichrist. Um, so here we have the angels. So this is an interesting line of dialogue here. So basically he says he doesn't want the old people to be in the pool with the cocoons because it's rejuvenating the old people, but it's also dangerous for the cocoons. So Wilford Brimley, he's asking, this guy's permission if they could keep, bathing in this pool with the cocoons. So he says, every 10,000 years or so, he makes a mistake. And he says the last one is when he picked Atlantis to be their base on Earth. Now, Atlantis, in my opinion, is another symbol for the North Pole, and perhaps the North Pole was Atlantis at some point in the past. And he says everyone else said no, use the North Pole. He said no, it's too cold. So here we have the script writer, associating Atlantis with the North Pole. 'Cause, he picked Atlantis, but they were like, "No, use the North Pole." But it's they're saying it's the same thing basically, and that it sank into the ocean, which may very well have happened because what's gonna likely happen after this, or during this, Armageddon reset is, the oceans will likely dry up. So this could be another way of how the North Pole islands, get shown to us, or we could actually go back to them is that they might actually literally be underwater right now. But there's a bunch of different options. So, without actually going there and knowing this stuff, it's kind of impossible to know, but it's just another option. Um, so he was energizing this pool with his life force, essentially. And oh yeah, they even say life force, and now the life force is so there was too many old people, and they drained all the energy out of the pool, and they're having these problems. So it's actually a really interesting movie. It's kind of hard to come by. I know Matt from Quantum of Conscience was talking about that too, where they don't really have Cocoon available on, or at least they did. Maybe they did recently, but on these streaming services, it's kind of like a tough movie to find. I had to buy the DVD on eBay. So here we have some. Original rainbow. I've shown this before, but this is some pretty awesome residue. And his shirt also says Camp Keystone. So the camp, this is like the camp of the saints, and the keystone is like the blue beam coming out of the mountain, and the lock is the apex dome. So like the ultimate like key and lock symbolism is the blue beam shooting into the apex dome, and what that does is it unlocks paradise essentially, and it also unlocks the dome, and then the dome will roll away like a scroll, like the Bible says, and that's how the world gets opened essentially. So here we have Camp Keystone with the residue for how a rainbow used to look, with violet on top and red on the bottom. And here's some other examples. So we have this residue in Amazing Grace and Chuck is like Charlie, so it's like Amazing Grace and the Free Man. And then the Grateful Dead, which may have lost the word "the" at the beginning of their name, but either way, it's we're like the Grateful Dead. We're like the people who used to be spiritually dead, but we're grateful now for this unveiling, and for the Holy Spirit helping us and all that. Um, and he's got the light blue shirt. His name's David. There's a lot going on there. And here they're basically in this dome. Dance hall with the layers of the dome, and they're listening to or they're dancing to a song called Dancing in the Dark. So that's like, again, like how we're in like the night essentially, and when Jesus returns, it'll be like the daytime. But we also have to dance in the dark in order for us to become more Christ-like, because dancing is like fighting. It's like fighting for the truth essentially. And this word dance comes up a lot in world script media, and it comes up a real lot in the Mandela effect. But I'll get into that in another time. I also have a video called The Rain Dance of the Mandela Effect, so I definitely recommend checking that out if you're interested. um, this is his Wilford Brimley's grandson again, and his mother, and she walks into his room and she goes, "Are you going to stay awake for the eclipse?" So the eclipse is like this ending, merging at the North Pole, and she's saying, "Are you going to stay awake? Like, are you going to be spiritually awake for the eclipse?" Essentially, and the movie ends with this big eclipse scene where the mothership essentially comes, and it fires up its blue and yellow colors. These are like the Christ colors, the blue beam colors. And here's like the plasma also. And it's also in the eye of a storm. There's a whole storm around it, as you can see. And then here's the vessel in the eye of the storm. This is hopefully us when Christ returns. And they get lifted up into essentially the paradise version of the apex dome. And here they are going up. The main character is going up, and then they get taken away in this, space vessel. And the normies on Earth, they have no idea what went on, so they think that all these old people died. And interestingly enough, too, at the funeral, they kind of show this Vesica Pisces symbol here. Like, this wouldn't be lost on Ron Howard, who directed this. Like, he's another big world script director who also made things like Apollo 13, which also has one of the more interesting Mandela effects too, because it changed and then it went back to its original form. The main quote in Apollo 13. So here's Captain America. This is another good version of the Cocoon. So they put a weak man, but with a good heart, into this cocoon chamber. So he's like Captain America, but before he becomes a superhero, and he's so weak that he couldn't even enter the military. But he agrees to go through with this, essentially this torturous experiment to possibly become a superhero. So he gets sealed into the cocoon. This is like his love interest who becomes his wife later. So his name is Steve Rogers, and you might not be able to read this, but the name Stephen basically means crown, and then Roger, I think, is like a nickname for God, and it basically means the famous spearman. But when you see this like spear symbolism, it refers to the blue beam. So he's essentially, the crowned man of the blue beam. So I think this, Captain America is a very good character, and of course he's, pretty wholesome and all that. So here they're upping the he does like so he's being tortured inside of here and he's like yelling, so they're like, "Oh, should we stop it?" And he's like, "No, don't stop it. I can take the pain." So this is like us inside of this cocoon world, and it's like, it does suck at times. There's certainly, all this illness and injury and horrible things that happen, and we lose family members, either they die physically or spiritually, frankly. And it can be a very traumatic life, but this is what we need to go through in order to become as strong as we need to be in the future world, however that pans out. So despite the pain and the pressure, and this pressure is another big symbol of the world script, he withstands his time inside the cocoon. And we're all under a lot of pressure, inside of our heads and just in the world itself, and through various means too. But it's also just the atmosphere itself building up inside under the dome. So when the dome goes away, the pressure is going to be relieved. There's going to be like, a big cataclysmic event, but then after that cataclysmic event, all this pressure will be gone, and it'll be like, we might even be able to fly. If this whole world is like a dream world, then pretty much anything is on the table. It's just whatever rules, God wants to set up. Um, so here also all the sparks. So you could also think of this as like the pineal gland or pineal organ, the third eye room or chamber, and the cocoon, inside of our head, and then the sparks going off because the crystals in our third eye give off like microscopic sparks. Essentially, they're piezoelectric crystals. So you'll often see sparks going off with these types of third eye scenes, like in the movie Contact when she goes through the wormhole. There's all these like sparks and everything. And again, that's like an Ezekiel wheel type of symbolism too. It's all basically the same thing. It's pretty incredible when you see it because it's really just all about our evolution. So then he comes out of the cocoon as a much stronger person than when he went in. He's like a superhero. And this is the villain at the beginning of the story. He essentially steals this blue beam energy from under the tree of life, and he's like the Hydra. So Captain America's enemy is this Kraken Hydra with these are like 6 6s essentially. It's like 6 6s with the tentacles. And so I'm just saying, like, it's not just that cocoon scene. There's all this other stuff in the movie too. And I'm not even like, these are just like the bigger things. The whole movie is filled with this world script symbolism. So right next to him, this is back when he was weak. He has this seeing eye chart, and it says VAXHOAX right here. And here you can see it closer. And then here, after he becomes a superhero, he runs out into the Times Square, and you have the corona, you have the spiked ball, you have the mask, and this is what's on Broadway. Like Broad is the path, type of symbolism. And here's another poster too, where he's essentially the battling the Hydra infiltrators or imposters. And then he's talking to Samuel L. Jackson, so he's got the right eye open, which means he's a good character. And here's the eclipse symbolism, and we'll get into the eclipse next video. But just to show you, you got the eclipse at the end of Cocoon, you got the eclipse at the end of Captain America. The eclipse symbol comes up in almost every world script, movie and TV show, I would say. So going back to the Vesica Pisces symbolism, let's talk about some Mandela effects. So I did talk about this last stream, but this is such a huge Mandela effect, and it's so obvious too. So the famous quote from Forrest Gump, it obviously was, "Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get." Um, it's let's see if does that change things? Oh wait, maybe I have to do this. But yeah, sorry if some of the things are cut off. Oh, I guess that works. Okay. But anyway, it used to be is, but now it's life was like a box of chocolates, which makes no sense. We talked about it last time. But I think this is like, before we enter the cocoon, we don't know what we're going to get, or God maybe didn't know what we're going to get. I know God, knows everything and all that, but he also puts himself in positions where he doesn't seem to know what the outcome of certain things would be. Like when he's like in the story of Job, which is essentially what I think we're going through too, like being in the traumatic cocoon, where God and the devil are essentially playing a game, but it's a serious game, of course, for people's souls. Um, but point being, prior to the cocoon, it's like we don't know what we're going to get, but then inside of the cocoon, it becomes apparent if we're going to be ruled by our right pillar or our left pillar. So life was like a box of chocolates, but now it no longer is, because we're almost out of this cocoon stage and people have pretty much made up their decisions on who they're going to be. So this is an example of the. I just put in some. If you want to see this video, it's my cocoon video. I highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite videos. But these are just examples of residue from different movies. So this is this is the end movie I was talking about. It's made by Columbia. Point Grey is interesting too, because Grey is the central pillar. But they're talking about that quote, and they say life is like a box of chocolates. He's also got the shark Jaws shirt, and then they have the rapture scene right after with the blue beams. Now this is a Family Guy. Stewie says, life is like a box of chocolates. Here's Morgan Freeman. He comes up a lot in uh, perhaps Mandela effect residue, but definitely in the world script. But he's got this weird commercial with the black and white stuff, and he's saying, life is like a box of chocolates. Weird Al made a Forrest Gump parody song, and in the song, the lyrics are "Life is like a box of chocolates." This villain in X Files says it. Marge in The Simpsons says it, and in Jeopardy they say it. Like literally on Jeopardy, they say life is like a box of chocolates. So Jeopardy goes through like painstaking research to make sure they get these things correct. So it's excellent residue for the Mandela effect. I mean, this is like a top 10 Mandela effect. Like how much evidence would a person need? So this is like the VHS tape for Forrest Gump, and keep in mind this was like one of, if not the biggest movies of the year that it came out, like 1995 or something like that. And on this huge movie that won Best Picture too at the Oscars, on the back of the VHS tape, they can't get the main quote correct. It says "Life is like a box of chocolates," and not only is it wrong on the VHS tape, but then when they came out with the DVD, they still get the quote wrong. "Life is like a box of chocolates." So people like to say, people who are like against the Mandela effect, they sometimes say, "What's that phrase?" Um, what is it called? Occam's razor, where it's like the simplest explanation um is generally the answer. So they're like, oh well, reality can't be changing because that's not simple. But in order to use Occam's razor, you have to use all of the evidence. You can't just ignore some evidence and then say Occam's razor. So the simplest explanation for Jeopardy and all these things being wrong is that the world changed. So that's one way to think about it for sure. That's how I think about it. You'd have to ignore all this stuff, and that's not something I'm going to do. I also remember the phrase the way it was in the movie, and so does Tom Hanks, and so do millions of other people. Impossible. when you get into how many people remember it certain ways. So this double bubble Mandela effect, this used to just be the word double, but now it's spelled like the word bubble. This again refers to the Vesica Pisces or the eclipse. It's the doubles circles. And I'm saying here, God's spiritual messages, they're easiest to kind of see in these quotes and lyrics, but they're in all the Mandela effects, even like a gum wrapper. And here's another one for Mr. Bubbles. So Mr. Bubbles went from plural to singular. Now it's just Mr. Bubble. But here you could see, and I think I got this from Moneybags' video. He's got a lot of great videos on a lot of these Mandela effects too. So definitely check him out if you're looking for more information and all that. Um, so here we see like the plural bubbles go into a singular bubble. So this is like the two right and left pillar merging into the Vesica Pisces and then merging into the eclipse, which would just be one bubble. Excuse me for a second. All right. So here's like a visual representation of what I mean by that. So if you have like these two bubbles here and your right pillar dominant, the white circle is going to take control. But if your left pillar dominant, your left black bubble will take control like that. And this would be the Vesica Pisces symbolism. And this guy, you could find him on YouTube. I think it's still there. But he actually wrote a song just for fun about Mr. Bubbles. And he says Mr. Bubbles, not Mr. Bubble. So, this guy went through all the trouble of writing a, parody song about Mr. Bubbles, and he doesn't know the name of the product. So here, this is interesting too, because this kid in the Andy Griffith Show is Ron Howard. And Ron Howard is the guy, he grew up to direct Cocoon. So the director of Cocoon is also in another Mandela effect here relating to this, Vesica Pisces cocoon like eclipse symbolism. And this is one I remember too, because my mom used to watch these, reruns when I was little all the time of like Andy Griffith Show and I Love Lucy and stuff like that. And I remember seeing when Ron Howard threw the rock into the, the pond or whatever it is, maybe a river, but I remember seeing it skip, and then all of a sudden I remember him throwing it and it just like plopped in there, which it does now. And I thought there were like two different intros or something, one where like the rock skipped and one where it didn't and all that. But now what it was a Mandela effect where the rock used to skip and now it just plops in there. So again, it's like the double bubble symbolism where there was multiple bubbles and now there's just the one or ripples in the water. And you could look at that too, like ripples in the water mirror type of thing. And here we have Simpsons, which is like parodied everything. So they show Bart mimicking it, and he doesn't just throw the rock in the water. It actually does the skimming or skipping with the multiple bubbles or ripples. And what's really interesting too is this is kind of current Ron Howard, and he skips a rock across this pond, and it skips a few times, and then he turns around and he goes, "Still got it." But that that isn't what he did in Andy Griffith's show. He just literally plunks the rock into the water. So, if you don't think this is a Mandela effect, then this makes no sense. Why would this even happen? So he's just on some random video on like Facebook or something, and someone must probably ask him to skip a rock, and he's like, "Yep, still got it." But it's like, still got it from what? You never did it in the first place. So, I don't even know if Ron Howard, knows about this Mandela effect. It's kind of interesting to think about. But see, like, it's like the multiple worlds and then becoming one world, or multiple pillars, becoming one pillar at the center. And then this central ripple, this is like, again, the concentric circles at the North Pole type of symbolism. So here's another one. Objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. Um, it used to be may be closer than they appear, but now it's are. And you might not be able to see that, but again, you can see all these in my Cocoon video if you're interested. and now it's R. But here, this is like a scene from Cheers where they say objects in mirror are closer than they appear. And this is, what I'm talking about. So if like the mirror is in the center and this is the right pillar and this is the left pillar, they're getting closer now. So this is like, the Vesica Pisces symbolism or the full eclipse symbolism. So this is again, I think all relating to the same concept. And this is a great piece of residue too. On David Letterman's show, they got James Earl Jones to do this top 10 list that David usually does or did. And one of them was they got him to say objects in mirror may be closer than they appear. But this isn't the phrase, so everyone is like, clapping and laughing that he says this. And this is what the writers wrote because this is what it was. But this isn't what it ever was. It was always objects in mirror are closer than they appear. So God is taking this, possibility and making it a definite because our mirror worlds are merging together. And this is one from Breaking Bad that I'm pretty certain is a Mandela effect. It's a huge meme where I remember the first time I saw this show, Gus said something along the lines of, because he's talking to Walter White. This is the first time they meet, and Walter wants to start doing business with Gus. And Gus basically says, you are you make your stuff in like an RV with like some junkie. I have like, um a multinational corporation, where I make my stuff. Like he's basically saying, we are not the same. So he's like, you do this terribly, I do this awesomely. We are not the same. Because I think Walt said, we're the same. But now, if you watch this scene, and I was actually when I rewatched this show, I was looking forward to this scene because I liked this line, and now he doesn't say it. So I went back and rewatched it, and I was like, where is this line? So I'm pretty sure it's a Mandela effect, but it's about we are not the same. It goes back to this whole cocoon symbolism, and we're also not the same as the people around us. Like my whole life, I grew up thinking that we're all kind of the same people, even though we all have different personalities and all that. But we're not. Some people are spiritually awake, and some people are spiritually dead or asleep, and we're just not the same. These are like the normies or antichrist, V'd up people. So there's Walt. So here, I mean, you could look this up for yourself. There's like a ton of memes about this. We are not the same, and he never said this. And of course, this is like the black white pillar symbolism as well when they sit across from each other. I don't want to get too into Breaking Bad. I'll probably do like a special live stream on it, but I also have a previous video on it too, where there's a ton of stuff. I think it's third why the Mandela effect paints things black video. It starts off with like a 8 or 10 minute video on a bunch of interesting stuff with Breaking Bad. So I definitely recommend that because it's all about the world script. Like Walt is essentially the Trump character. And then Gus is like Obama and all that. There's a lot going on there, and I think it's another reason why I think things are going to end relatively soon because in Breaking Bad, Walt's like the Trump character, so he has his like first, presidency, and then he goes away, and an imposter takes his place, which is like the Biden character, and then Walt comes back, and he doesn't really stick around for too long. So this is like Trump's second presidency, and then the story ends. So I don't think it's going to be too much longer. I mean, but I guess we'll have to wait and find out. But here, like when God or the Bible talks about a day doesn't generally have to mean a day. Um, but this song definitely was what a difference a day makes, and now it's what a difference a day made. But also in the title, the E got truncated out. You could see how it's just DIF and then apostrophe RENCE. And it's like this different strokes TV show. Just one second. So we talked about different strokes before with the extended R, but it also is DIFFRENT. So this is another. I don't want to say a pattern of the Mandela effect with this. I've only noticed two so far with this word different, but definitely something going on here. This is not the way it was for sure. And I think the O is tilted to the left also. And also, like, I always encourage looking up what these words mean because a lot of words have definitions that you might not be aware of. And also what names mean too, of course. But like the word stroke. So stroke, an instance of striking, with a fist or a weapon or a hammer. But you also like strike a sword too, like on an anvil, which is another big thing with the Mandela effect. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot. A sound can be a stroke. There was definitely a few, like a destructive discharge of lightning. It's pretty interesting. A single complete movement, swimming. Oh, a movement of a pen or a pencil. So just saying, like, there's a lot of ways you can look at some of these Mandela effects because some of these words have a ton of definitions, and a lot of these definitions we don't normally, think about. So just some stuff to check out if you're interested. And then going back to Dinah Washington here. Now it's what a difference a day made. And in this video, I have some performers just singing it the way it used to be. They all sing, what a difference a day makes. Made is ridiculous sounding in my opinion. There's another one. All right, so these are going to be some Vesica Pisces Mandela effects. So I just kind of wanted to throw these names out there in case you have some strong memories of these logos or movie posters or anything. So just something to check out if you want to like pause the screen or something and think about it. But I'll be getting into them here. Moneybags has a great video on these cool cigarettes. I unfortunately always remember them being this way. Um, Even like when I was a kid, seeing like billboards and stuff with this, but a lot of people don't. Since this is definitely a pattern of the Mandela effect, I tend to agree with what they're saying. I just don't have that particular memory. But interestingly enough, too, it's also the word "look" backwards, so that could be part of the message too with this one. But this one is 100%er for me. Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. So midnight is kind of like the end time. Like minutes to midnight type of thing, like the doomsday clock, which means doomsday. So like the day that the dome comes down, essentially, and that's midnight. So we're basically right at midnight. Maybe a few seconds before midnight, in the Garden of Good and Evil, and the garden is the central, North Pole Garden of Eden, paradise, and then here we have that central Vesica Pisces messaging in the Mandela effect. And I think some of these letters too are merged together, like the D and the N. I don't see why they would. I don't remember it being like that. That's weird. So here's some other posters for it if you're more familiar with different posters. So here's Bergdorf Goodman. This is one where I had never seen this store before, so I can't say, but this is certainly strange. I mean, it looks like the O's were in perfect, alignment, and they just got merged into the center here. And this definitely fits the Mandela effect in multiple ways. So for one, this is definitely a pattern of changes. And Berg, whenever you see the word Berg, like Steven Spielberg, it means mountain. So like the name Steven Spielberg, it basically means like the crowned storyteller from the mountain. So, I mean, think about that name meaning when he's the guy who puts out like hundreds of world script, stories. And also Stephen King, he's basically like his name is like the crowned king. So who are these people? Like it's just so crazy. But yeah, so this basically dwarf means village. So it essentially means, the mountain village of the good man. And then in the center at the North Pole. Oh, here we go. So I have it right there. Bloomingdale's. This is a huge one. This one is a 100%er for me. Absolutely zero chance these O's were merged together like this. Um, I saw this store many times, going to malls or just driving by a mall or whatever. Zero chance, guys. Like this is 100% Mandela effect. And it relates, it's actually in the thumbnail of the video. the blooming flower, like a dale means like a valley. So the valley is like the center of like the mountain, like the split mountain with the lower portion in the center. So that's like the blooming lotus flower out of the center of the mountain at the North Pole, basically. And this is what we see in IPEC Go 2 with the lotus flower blooming between the apple, or the two twin halves of the apple, which are like our two eyes. And then the Washington Monument, which I also have in the thumbnail. The Washington Monument is essentially the blue beam with the pyramid capstone at the top, and it's arising from the center of a Vesica Pisces. And it's in the thumbnail if you want to see it. I don't think I have a picture right here, but I've shown that in the past too. So yeah, it's Valley of Flowers, basically. And like we're the flowers that are rising up in Christ's wake. Like at the end of I Pet Goat 2, he emerges from Vesica Pisces, like vaginal opening from the mountain. And there's pink or magenta, I think like pink flowers rising up, lotus flowers rising up in his wake. So that's what this is. And also the blooming, like you could think of it as like, left eye, right eye, and this is like the third eye in the center. So this one's another 100%er for me. There's no way that this poster was like this. I never saw this movie, but this was one of those movies that was advertised all the time. And the name Stella means star. So it's like how the star got her groove back. And the word star comes up in the Mandela effect a lot too. And also her name is like Angel. But yeah, Stella means star whenever you see Stella. And Marvin's Room, I'm not 100% on this, but I mean, it definitely looks weird to me. I'm pretty sure it's a Mandela effect. I mean, why would they do this? I remember seeing it with the two O's split, but it's just not one that I'm going to say I'm like 100% on. I'll say like 99%, but pretty sure on that one. And here you see another example. And the word Marvin actually means famous friend, but also like a sea friend, lover of the sea. So there could be some meaning in there. And then the room, of course, is like the room or the space inside of our heads. So this like sea symbolism comes up a lot because we're essentially in like the water world, because the central pillar is water. And that's why we have, like the left is fire and the right is ice. So when they combine, they make water. And this is the storm. This also creates the storm, of course, and the rain and the waterfall. And Jesus walking on top of the water, so we want to be above that. This is another one that I'm not 100% sure on, but it certainly looks weird. Over the Brooklyn Bridge, you got the Twin Towers here. You got the bridge symbolism too going over. And this is also like that newt symbolism I was talking about, the Egyptian goddess of the sky or the firmament. So I think that all comes into play. And perhaps even the person, rising up from the right, you know. This one's 100%er. Sliding Doors it was not like this. I haven't seen this movie, but I remember, the posters and the commercials and things, and it was not like this. So, Sliding Door, this is like the eclipse. Like, just picture the sun and the moon sliding over each other, or the right and the left pillars. They're like the sliding doors, and then the main door is at the central pillar, either at the top or the bottom. And this is like the double O pillar that comes up a lot, or like the O pillar. There's another one. There's another one. This one's 100%er too. I know a lot of people wouldn't know this one. Unfortunately, I sold this tape a while back, but I had this tape. I've mentioned that I sell a lot of old media, and it definitely was not like this. 100% was not like this. The O's were separated, and I'm not 100% sure, what the message is, to all a good night. But it's of course a horror movie, so it looks kind of ominous. But the message could be good. But you'll scream till dawn. The word scream actually comes up a lot. I don't want to get too into it right now, but like the painting, the scream. Actually, I'll talk about that next video, because there's like an added bracelet to the character in the scream now, and you might be able to think of where I'm gonna go with that because it's a, a circle, a gold circle. So this one, I was shown by Brian Stavely when I was showing him some of these other Vesica Pisces. He sent me these LL Cool J albums or pictures of them, and I have never like I wasn't a huge LL Cool J fan. I never had any of his albums, but I definitely don't remember ever seeing his name spelled like shown like this. It was always just two O's. And this is actually there's like a lot of really interesting stuff going on here. So I mean, you have like the red coloring, so perhaps that's bad. Also, these letters, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a Mandela effect where they point to the left now. And LL, this is like I was talking about too, where you have like you have like the J, this is like the right pillar, the Jesus pillar, and then the Lucifer left pillar, this would be like the LL, like God is also L, like EL. So LL would be like the double of God or like, the Antichrist character. So you have like the AC pillar and then the Christ pillar. So I think there's something going on. I think that's why it changed. There's probably like a little bit more eloquent way to put it. But here's another LL Cool J album. So it could these all these phrases could be part of it too because it's not every LL Cool J album that does this. It's only certain ones. So going back to Cali, Jack the Ripper, I can't live without my radio. These all might be part of the message. And here's another one. Oh, ghetto blast. I need love. There's a lot of messages relating to love. This Fruit Loops change. This is how I remember Fruit Loops being, but this is how it is now. This R also is probably extended or curled up. I don't think the R used to be like that, but this also makes very similar shape to the Vesica Pisces. And there's a lot more going on with this too. I think the colors are important, especially of the new ones. And the mascot is Sam. So Sam comes up a lot in the Mandela effect too. I have a whole video on that. I think it's called Sam and the North Pole Mountain or something like that if you're interested. But there's a lot of Sam related Mandela effects, which is also really interesting too because Nathan Sanders, if you're familiar with him, he's like one of the best speakers on the Mandela effect in my opinion. And he had a near death experience where he met like a godlike figure who basically told him that something major was going to happen soon. And then shortly after this near death experience, the Mandela effect happened, and he's been one of the biggest speakers on it. And this, character that appeared to him, this like, godlike person, called himself Sam. And Nathan told this whole story before knowing that there was a major pattern in the Mandela effect with the name Sam. And this is also a new like Toucan Sam has this pink band around his nose now. He never used to have pink, but now if you look at these old covers, he always had pink. But I remember the colors being like just yellow, red, orangey type of colors. Definitely not pink. But yeah, so this could also relate to the Vesica Pisces, and I think we're like the fruit essentially. But there's a lot to get into there and unpack. I kind of want to stay with the Vesica Pisces stuff. So here we have Moonstruck again. At the Twin Towers. Cher here is making like the Christ pose type symbolism. It's also like the Atlas type of pose, and this is kind of like the dome. Going through the dome, but also Moonstruck. And again, it's kind of like that strike. Striking comes up quite a bit. I'm not 100% sure what to make of that, but we talked about it a bit before with like different strokes. So oops. So maybe it's like the moon is the right pillar, so maybe like we should be struck with the moon essentially, not with the sun. Like which would be like sunstroke, perhaps. Um, and Nicolas Cage also just as an aside, I've mentioned this before, but he lost an H in his name, and a lot of symbolism too with his name too, because I think Nicholas or Nick is usually like a devil nickname, and then no offense if your name is Nick, it's not pertaining to you, it's just the world script. And Cage too is interesting. Here's another Moonstruck. This is a 100 percenter for me. I have seen this movie once a long time ago, but this poster is like just really iconic. I've just seen it a lot, and it's 100% Mandela effect for me that this merged. So I have enough like 100% with this Vesica Pisces to know that this is a pattern, which is why I'm able to look at some of the maybe options, a little more closely. Like Paper Moon, like I'm not familiar with this movie. I never saw it before, but I mean, it certainly fits with a lot of the other ones we've seen. And I don't see why they would like this is tough to read, like you want people to be able to read the title, and there's no reason to do this, and there's actually another cover for this Paper Moon, and it looks like this, and this is a Mandela effect also. Like there's just no way. But interestingly enough, it's not with the Vesica Pisces. It all the letters were turned into like blocks, and I've seen this in other Mandela effects too, where it's like all the you know empty spaces were like filled in basically. So that's actually a really positive sign too. Like empty space being filled in, it's like having our the thing we've always been looking for, which would be God, finally filled in inside of us. So I looked up what paper means because I'd heard of it in a couple ways. The one that I thought of first was like a paper tiger, which would be like a negative thing. Because like a paper tiger is like someone who comes across as like being strong, but when they're actually put to the test, they're weak. So they're like a paper tiger. But also the first anniversary is a paper anniversary. But I wasn't really 100% sure what that meant, so I just looked it up, and paper seems to be a really good symbol. It symbolizes new beginnings, a fresh start, or a blank slate, and endless possibilities, perhaps. Communication, divine messages in spiritual contexts. Um, there's a lot you could. There's some interesting stuff here, but it seems like a positive. It's kind of like a new beginning, which is what we're going to have. Um, after the Armageddon reset happens. I'm just trying to look through here to see if I think there was like one or two I wanted to point out, but I don't want to get too held up on it. So this one's 100% change for me. I actually have this tape somewhere. Um, but it 100 I know a lot of people aren't going to recognize this, but 100% was not like this. And there's also a lot of Mandela effects going on here. So for starters, this Thriller video wasn't like this. It didn't have like the L under the small L. It was just two L's, two normal L's, and an L going under another letter is a very common Mandela effect pattern. And here we see the C merged into the H, the L merged into the D. So all this merging. And here again, the L going under the other L. And here we have the Vesica Pisces as well. And here we have another typical Mandela effect thing too, where the H of the word the just merges straight into the E. So absolutely, 100% was not like this. I know a lot of people aren't going to know this one, but in my experience and memory, I know this is definitely a change. And very interestingly, I looked up what the name Elvira means, and it means foreign white truth, happy, and spear, like the blue beam. So a very interesting name. It also, of course, has the EL. And this is obviously I haven't seen this movie. She like it's kind of like a mystery science theater where she makes fun of these old movies. So this is probably like a movie about kids being werewolves, I assume. Um, but Children of the Full Moon, I could see this definitely as in a good context. But you could see it in different ways, of course. We all have our own interpretations on these things. This one I'm like 90% sure on. I actually had this tape too, but I did sell it at some point. But I don't remember the O's being like this, and I definitely don't remember the R being long like this either. So Moon and Scorpio, we got the Scorpion, we got the vessel, we got the Skull Mountain, perhaps symbolism. Um, and so this is the foreign release for Moon and Scorpio, and it's called Blood Moon, and that also has this Vesica Pisces going on. And this one I never saw before, but I'm almost positive it's a Mandela effect. Shoot the Moon, like this looks to be like a family movie. I don't really know anything about it. Here you have like the mirror, vessel symbolism again. This is almost like a North Pole mountainy kind of symbol. But yeah, like shoot the moon. This is actually something that Jay Dreamers talks about a lot, like just this phrase, because shooting the moon, because the real moon is essentially the apex dome, because the sun and the moon are projected from that area, which is why they're the same size basically. So shooting the moon is the blue beam going through the apex dome. And here we have, and this would all take place at the North Pole, which is where the Vesica Pisces also takes place. So this one's huge in my opinion. I'd love to hear from someone who actually knows this poster and knows that this is a Mandela effect. Um, but in my opinion, it's certainly highly likely. And like, let's say it's not a Mandela effect. Let's say it's always been this way. It still has the same world script symbolism. Like why would they make the Vesica Pisces symbol in this shoot the moon logo? They're doing it because it references this North Pole area. It's the same reason why they have the Vesica Pisces under the Washington Monument, which represents the blue beam shooting up into the moon and the full moon. This represents the apex dome. So here we have the man in the moon, another moon related symbol or phrase with the Vesica Pisces again. This is one where I can't confirm it. I never saw this movie before, but very likely I would say, like, why would you have, it looks like a young romance movie with Reese Witherspoon. Like why would you have the word moon with the Vesica Pisces where you can't really read the title? It doesn't, this like adds nothing to the title to do it this way. Oops. uh like shoot the moon, like you're just making it difficult for the audience to, it just looks weird. It looks like you're going like cross-eyed or something, like it's, and the cross-eyed is actually really interesting to think about too, but I don't want to get too off topic. So here, two moon junction, this one, so there are other posters where the O's aren't merged, but this one's very close to 100%, I would say as well, because the two moon junction, that's the eclipse. It's the sun and the moon, conjoining at that central area. They're both the same size essentially. This is why like bicycles are symbolic of the eclipse, because they have the two wheels of the same size. This one, Moonlight and Valentino. I can't confirm this one either, but again, you know, why would they do this? And again with the same symbolism. And then the word Valentino means strong, vigorous, and healthy. And so it's like, the right pillar and the strong people essentially. These two I can't confirm or deny or anything, but again, just to keep in mind, these books by Joe Clayton, Moon Gather and Moon Scatter. It's very interesting. This one I can't confirm or deny either, but brother, sun, sister, moon. So the masculine left pillar is the sun, and then the feminine right pillar is the moon. So definitely interesting here. I don't know why, it makes it so difficult to read, but all these moon words. Again, this book, Moon Shadow. I never saw this before, so I can't confirm. This looks to be like a newer book too. So with new stuff, I'm much more skeptical, because the newer stuff tends to like mimic the Mandela effect patterns. So it's like the system kind of trying to throw a wrench or like muddy the waters in terms of trying to research these things. But this could be a Mandela effect. This one is a 100% Mandela effect for me. I know a lot of people aren't going to know this one either, but this was a big anime movie that came out around 2004 or something, and I was really interested in the first Ghost in the Shell. It's actually The Matrix took a lot of influence from Ghost in the Shell. It was like an older anime movie, and they also had a TV show about it too. So this Ghost in the Shell movie, part two, was called Innocence, or it's called Innocence, and the letters were absolutely not like this, like 100% not like this. So you have the O and the C making a Vesica Pisces, the N and the N merged together, and then this N and this C, they're almost making like a Vesica Pisces too. That's very strange. But yeah, I can, happy to go on the record and say this is a 100% change. And also, the word innocence, going to the Garden of Eden, returning home. This is a return to innocence. And of course, Cocoon, which we're familiar with, and Cocoon, the sequel, The Return. So the first Cocoon is like the blue beam charging up with the dome over it. And then the second Cocoon is the man standing on top of the water vessel with the blue beam. So it's like, the charging of the blue beam and then the blue beam firing. And even these taglines, it's everything you've dreamed of, but nothing you expect. And this is what I would expect from God, like he'll make our dreams come true, but it's also going to be very surprising. In this one, this holiday season, and the word holiday, it means holy day. So this holy day season, journey to the most wonderful place in the universe, home. And when you see this word home, this is paradise or the Garden of Eden. And it comes up a lot. It comes up a lot in the Mandela effect, comes up a lot in the world script. Like when the dwarves are saying, it's home from work we go. They used to say it's off to work we go, but now they're saying they're going home from doing their work. So what we're doing right here is we're doing our works to promote the truth, to promote God and Jesus, to help other people, see these truths to the best of our ability. Like this is the work that we're doing, and then we're going to get to go home after this. We're going to return after the cocoon, and this is actually the DVD set that I bought for these movies, and they really go hard actually with the blue beam symbolism. Like so notice how they don't have the Vesica Pisces on these, because I guess it's like a newer release or something. um but they like added a blue beam into the original cocoon, and they added more like blue beam symbolism to this cocoon the return one, and they also added the dome, the blue beam shooting through the dome. Like this is really over the top. It also might even be a Mandela effect. I mean, I don't know, but whatever it is, it exists right now in the world, and we can look at it and see this, heavy world script blue beam symbolism and dome symbolism, all in relation to this cocoon. And this is kind of like an eclipse too here, and keep in mind that the story is all about the eclipse. The end of the movie happens during an eclipse. So here we have Truman Show, Jim Carrey. His name has an extra R. This didn't used to be this way. Interesting too with the 1099. This is like the 9-1 symbolism. So here with the Vesica Pisces, so I'm going to show you guys like a bunch of examples of Vesica Pisces boats being used in these movies to convey this same symbolism. So in the beginning of the movie, Truman is afraid of going where he needs to go, and where does he need to go? He has to go to the North Pole, basically, which is the Vesica Pisces at the central pillar. And here's the boat, and he's afraid to get into this boat to try to get across the water to escape the dome, essentially. And in the Lord of the Rings, the first Lord of the Rings movie, here we have like some dome, symbolism, and the sword and all that. But Frodo and Sam, they get inside of a Vesica Pisces boat at the end, and not only them, and also Boromir. So he does like kind of redeem himself, but he's not spiritually awake, to put it that way. Like he can't handle the power of the ring and all that. He basically fails. So he's in a Vesica Pisces, and he goes down on the waterfall here. So this is like a waterfall right here, and he goes down. He basically is spiritually fallen, and his sword is pointing down and all that. And this is even like the apex dome above him too. But Frodo and Sam, they're in the Vesica Pisces going towards the North Pole area, and they're on the journey of spiritually awakening. And Frodo has Sam with him, who's essentially the Holy Spirit, God character who helps him along. He helps him carry the load. This is another movie that's got a lot in it that I don't think too many people know about. It's called Immortals. And this R is definitely another extended R Mandela effect. Interesting date that it came out also. And this is the Superman actor, Henry Cavill. So he's obviously pretty tied to these world script movies. So here, just a really quick scene. This is like towards the end battle of the movie. He's taking his sword right here, and he's going to hit the controls for a gate to make the gate come down. And the controls for the gate, that basically, like, this gate is the two worlds, between the heroes and the villains, and you can see it in a few different ways. I don't want to get too into this movie right now, but the gate between the worlds has the Vesica Pisces symbol right on it, and then the gate comes down. I'll talk about that movie another time, but there's a lot in that movie. But I just wanted to show you. I had a note for the Vesica Pisces there, so I just wanted to show you. This is one of the newer John Wick movies. There's a ton of symbolism in these movies. So note they're getting into a ship that's like the Vesica Pisces, and they're going to travel down this water passageway. So the water is the central pillar. And then these are like the domes that they're going to go under. So this is like the concentric dome symbolism. And then at the top of each dome, there's like this opening, which is like the apex dome. And I don't know if you can see it, but this ship is called Hortense. And the name Hortense means garden. So there's like the Garden of Eden symbolism with the Vesica Pisces vessel again. And here they're traveling under, see, this is like the dome layers basically. And this is like the apex dome. And John, which is like the right pillar, the J name. Not every J name I would say is right pillar, but definitely John, Jack, Joe, Jean, Jane, names like that for sure. So he's basically traveling with the devil character and with the god character in the Vesica Pisces vessel under the dome. And he goes to, and they're basically bringing him to a church. And keep in mind too, like the name Kirk means church, like we saw recently. So this church typically is, the main church is like at the North Pole. It's the temple at the North Pole. It's like the North Pole Mountain, the building, the tower. So he opens the door at this church, and here we see like in architecture how this symbolism is present too. So you have like the twin pillars, you got the dome, you got the gateway in the middle, the doorway in the middle, and then the inverted apex dome. So this is the third Narnia movie. This looks to be kind of Mandela affected as well, R and some other things perhaps. And I mean, this R going over here is very strange to me, but I'm not like 100% on these. But these movies have a ton of symbolism in them, of course, and of course the books do as well. From is it C.S. Lewis, I think. So at the end of this movie, the characters are in a Vesica Pisces boat, and they're traveling over water, of course. But you also have all these blooming flowers because they're basically going to a paradise area to speak with the lion, who's like the god character. So here we have all the blooming flowers. This is basically like the end of I Pet Goat 2, where Jesus is in the Vesica Pisces boat, and all the lotus flowers are blooming in his wake. So you see like the sea of flowers. This is like the Bloomingdale's symbolism also. So you have the Vesica Pisces and the Bloomingdale. Oh, okay. So in I Pet Goat 2, Jesus is on this Vesica Pisces boat, and Jesus, like coming from heaven in this situation, he's like breaking through the glass barriers that, these are like the firmament layers, but it's also like the screens, like the TV screens. And he's breaking through them with his Vesica Pisces boat, and then he blows fire into each of us, into his people, and this fire ignites. This symbol here is basically like a combination of our third eye and our uvula, like in our throat. So not only are we being awakened in our third eye area, but we're also on fire to speak the truth too. So this is like a like throat symbolism here too. And then Jesus emerges inside of us on this Vesica Pisces vessel. And then these barcoded fish, they're like these black and white fish, they're getting on board this Jesus's vessel. And then he emerges from, like I was saying, like, it's like Vesica Pisces, it's like the feminine symbol coming out of the mountain on the Vesica Pisces boat. And then here's the blooming lotus flowers, which also represent us in the wake. So like the fish represent us coming up out of the water, and these lotus flowers represent us as well. And they also could represent Mandela effects as well. And one of my early videos, I think it's the one with the Statue of Liberty thumbnail. It's about like the name of the Mandela effect, and it gets into this scene with the lotus flowers and all that. If you're interested, there's just some more information and connections there. So let's get into some more logo changes. I've talked about this one before. So like just seeing the E merged into the N, merged into the D, merged into the O, it obviously was not like this. You have the extended R, you have the word the with the H going into the E. Many, many changes here, and it's the perils of Gwendolyn. And I've talked about this before. I don't think I have the name of the what Gwendolyn means exactly, but let me just look it up real fast. Okay, yeah. So Gwendolyn means fair, blessed, and white. And this isn't about like skin color or anything like that. Whatever you look like, whatever gender you are, we want to be up towards the white light because we're talking about spiritual light. And it also means fair and blessed, and this is why heaven is always white because this is God's light, and then Jesus is like the prism who separates that white light into the colors of the rainbow so that we can perceive it essentially and rise up through it and go over the rainbow like in Wizard of Oz. um, but this whole story that we're in, this world script, it's the perils of the fair and blessed people. It's like the wearing out of the saints, essentially. But I'm going to talk about a bunch of logos here, and it's also important to keep in mind the word logos. So the word logos, it's pretty amazing. But for starters, they say the rational principle that governs and develops the universe, and it also means the divine word or reason incarnate in Jesus Christ. And let me just make sure you guys can see that. But yeah, like, so we're not just talking about logo changes here. We're talking about changes to the logos. Like Jesus, in my opinion, is delivering us all these messages through the logos around us. And in my opinion, these merged logos, they have the same messaging as what we saw with the Vesica Pisces logos. It's just that not every name, of course, has two O's in it, where God can merge those together to give us the same symbolism. So there's like a ton of other messages that he wants to give us. But there aren't two O's to make a Vesica Pisces. So instead, the logos themselves just became merged in different areas. And I do think it matters which letters are merged to which other letters. Um, so not to I don't want to cut this Huffy one off because Huffy is crazy. So anyway, we have Mark and Mindy. I don't want to get too into all of them. These are things to kind of think about on your own, I would say. But Columbia House, Columbia is that central North Pole symbolism. The house is like the church I was just talking about, the temple at the North Pole. And you also have the blue and white coloring. Also, keep in mind the colors of these logos are important. Some of them might not be as important as others, but like when there's, like Columbia House has this really standard blue and white coloring, and that's the colors of the blue beam essentially. Excuse me for one second. All right, sorry about that. And as you can see with Huffy is really ridiculous the way it's all merged, but like the U into the F, it definitely was not like this. I had a Huffy bike as a kid, and it definitely was not like this. And in the future, we'll get into what all these particular letter changes might mean. It's also possible that the specific letters don't mean anything, and the message is just that these concepts are merging at the North Pole. So Huffy is one that I'm not totally sure on, but it is about bicycles, and the bicycle is the eclipse symbolism, which is the merging at the North Pole. So here you see some Huffy stuff. Now there are other logos for Huffy, but this seems to be like the main Huffy symbol or logo, and it just looks ridiculous. Like no way. And here's like one where it isn't. It's like a different Huffy logo, but on the grip here, it shows the one I was showing you before with the U and the F merged together. So like there's no chance they would do this. So this would be an interesting one to decode. I'm not sure what it means yet. So here's a ton of ones with like a hero with the sword, Beastmaster, He-Man, the Masters of the Universe, Beastmaster 2. And now there are sometimes alternate posters for these things. So I actually have right next to me this poster hanging on the wall, and you can see obvious, eclipse symbolism. You got the eclipse ring, but you also have the eclipse here with the corona and all that. And there's like the dome, the sword, of course. This is like the North Pole Mountain. You'll often see this at the bottom of posters like this. It's like the Titanic boat, like it's basically like the North Pole Mountain in the center. But interestingly enough, this logo isn't merged. So I hung it next to me, hoping that it would merge someday, but it hasn't merged yet. So maybe it'll merge soon, after this video, maybe. But it's just something to keep in mind. Like, it's good to keep in mind some of these logos that have a good chance of changing, because then when it changes, your mind will be blown and you won't be the same ever again, because you'll know for a fact that reality is changing all around you and with specific intent and messaging in mind. So again, here we have a bunch of sword symbolism with the merging. We talked about this with the anvil. Mulan has the L and the A merged, and this is also about like a female uh, posing as a male. So you have like this, left and right pillar merging kind of going on. Also, the imposter symbolism. Star Wars has emerged. I don't want to get too into this because it's kind of a long explanation, but I do think that this S and T are a Mandela effect. And then in later versions of the logo, they merged the R with the S. I think because this happened, and you could see like the T isn't following. Like the T should be a little more to the right because like all the letters kind of follow this like pyramidal design. So it's like the T got like pushed to the left a bit and merged into the S. And here's the one I was talking about too. I gave them a sword. This is a book I never saw before. I was searching online for VHS tapes, and this book came up, which like pretty much never happens where a book comes up in that kind of a search. So I believe I was just being shown this by God, or the Holy Spirit, or an angel or whatever. Um, but I think they wanted me to see this to show you guys, and it's very obviously a Mandela effect. Like if you think like a Richard Nixon book came out and the letters were like this, like there's zero chance any publisher would make this. But this is, in my opinion, is God saying, I gave them a sword. And the sword is all merged together, like at the North Pole. You got the T and the H really weirdly merged together. Same with the G and the A. And I think that the A represents our third eye and or capstone, and the G is like it represents God. So God giving us this sword, he's merging with us inside of our heads. And then the A's pointing to the right, I think is a good thing, because a lot of times A's are now either pointing to the right or pointing to the left. So maybe, that means like to be more right pillar oriented to the right. And on some more negative phrases and changes and things, the A's are pointing to the left. So just something to keep in mind. I'm not 100% on a lot of these, detail explanations yet, but here we have the CK. This is like the Charlie name too, and the Superman name, and it's also like a 33. You have the 3 and the 11. And I don't think I have it here either, but the band 311, their logo is different now too. But you have the CK merged. Labyrinth, this is the maze, which I'll talk about in the future. But you have the L and the A merged, and the last Starfighter. So again, we have the star symbolism, and I haven't talked about this one much. I'll make it bigger. So here you have the L going under the A, and this is like Black Sheep and Blade Runner and a bunch of other things where the L just totally cuts off this left leg of the A, and then weirdly these letters didn't like merge together, but they like cut themselves off kind of. So like the A cuts off the R, which cuts off the F. The I cuts off the G, which cuts off the H. So very strange change to this one, but definitely a change. Okay, that was interesting. Um, so Jack in the Box we talked about before too. This is you know definitely a change. In my opinion, the company even had to make a new logo after this because this looks so ridiculous. So you have the C going into the K again. You have the H and the E merged together, and also the T into the H, and then the O into the X. I mean, this is almost like the Vesica Pisces, like Jesus fish type of symbolism. And of course, Jack represents the right pillar, uh, and then the red box would be a negative thing. But I kind of think it's like apex dome symbolism. It's this is almost like the North Pole blue beam going up into the apex dome, but I'm not 100% on that yet. These are definitely all different. Fight Club is huge for me. I think a lot of people would resonate with this one. I mean, these two words were separated. Now the I, it looks like just one long L. Like, guys, like this is like if you don't think the Mandela effect is real and you're familiar with Fight Club, I mean, come on, this is ridiculous looking. I can't stress enough how bad that looks. It wasn't like that. You would never like, David Fincher, the director of this, he's like, almost like a Stanley Kubrick level of meticulous. Like, there's no way, like, there's absolutely 0 chance that this logo looked like this. WrestleMania, I'm close to 100% on, like, there's just I don't remember this at all. With this R connecting to this S, no. And then this just looks crazy too, and this is all about, like, fighting, like I was talking about with, like, the dancing. Um, we need to be fighting for the truth, and it's like a wrestling match or like a chess match or a dance between our right and left pillars. And like the beast system is always trying to influence and encourage our left pillar, and God and the Holy Spirit are always trying to influence and encourage our right pillar. But yeah, so you cut off ours. The This one isn't so much of a merging. I mean, this is probably merged here, but there's also like missing pieces and things. So there's a lot to get into. I don't think a lot of people are really ready to have this conversation yet, and I'm not 100% on the particular letter changes. So for now, it's just something to keep in mind and think about. So here, blades of steel. This actually can get really interesting. I don't know if I want to get too into it. For starters, it's 100% Mandela effect. There's no way Blades of Steel was like this. Um, so I guess what I'll say is, so what is a blade? A blade is generally a sword, but it's also a sharp object. I mean, obviously these hockey players don't have swords; they have the blades on their feet. But a blade is essentially a sharp object. So this could be the sword. It could also be the needle. So what is this is like the duality of everything, where the needle symbolism can be very good as the blue beam, or it can be very bad as the V needle, the black goo. Um, and think about these two things in relation to steel. So like what is a sword made out of? It's made out of steel. And what is at least part of a syringe made out of? It's made out of steel. So these are the blades of steel. And it's all about this merging at the North Pole. Like, are you going to merge with God and go up with the sword of steel, or are you going to merge with the devil or the Antichrist and go down with the V needle of steel? It's really amazing, in my opinion. Um, And then this show, Dexter, he's actually a Christ figure. I know the show is very dark and disturbing, but there's a ton of Christ symbolism in this show. I don't know if I'll ever get into talking about it. I've seen the original series, and I saw this New Blood series, but there's actually a new series I think called Resurrection, which I haven't seen yet. But if you look up what the word Dexter means, it means on the right side. So of course he is playing a character of a serial killer, and of course this is like fire and ice symbolism too, the two pillars. But like in his like defense or whatever, he tries to only kill people who quote unquote deserve it. But yeah, I don't. The merging of this logo has been merged, so it could just be on the right side type of merging, and not really take into account what the show is about. But then again, maybe it does. It is a pretty big world scripty show, in my opinion, especially this New Blood. I don't really remember the original series too well in terms of symbolism, but I watched this like a couple years ago, and major world script symbolism. Like his house gets burned down. He does like the Christ pose pretty constantly, and a lot of stuff like that. So here's just another look at Blades of Steel and Tetris. This person has I guess they're selling both of these at the same time. But Tetris also changed, and the R and the I merged together here too. And you can see there's gaps in the E and the T's. And this Tet is basically like the apex dome. Like Tet is like the number 9, I think, in Hebrew. Jay Dreamers has a ton of stuff on that. But I think, this is essentially the blue beam. Um, and again, we got the pyramid at the bottom, like I was saying, like with the mountain and the Beastmaster poster. So a lot to keep in mind, but also, all these things are generally the same concepts. It's all about the twin pillars merging into the central North Pole pillar, and it's all about the blue beam charging under the mountain and then shooting up through the mountain, breaking through the dome and going into the apex dome, which is likely where the Garden of Eden is. And if you just take those two concepts, pretty much all of these Mandela effects apply to those two concepts. So here's the select screen for Blades of Steel. You can see it's merged together here as well. Here's a few others. Stephen King's Salem's Lot. It now has this extra apostrophe, like it's truncated, like it's Jerusalem's Lot. And I think the real Jerusalem is the paradise at the North Pole. And also, you could see the L, O, and T look like they're merged together. And in the movie version of Salem's Lot, you got like a ton of merging going on. This looks really crazy. And I think the E is smaller. The M is probably smaller. This O is smaller. So there's a lot going on here. And this is kind of like the Kraken, with the hands over the North Pole Mountain, perhaps. The borrowers, this is merged together. And one of the things too is I think a lot of logos have had these stars added into O's in particular, but sometimes C also. But I think that's another Mandela effect too, pattern is these like stars being added to logos. But I mean, the B merging into the O, I mean, this actually creates like a Vesica Pisces as well. And I think there's a lot of merging in this one. So critters, this poster is actually really interesting for critters. It's got like the twin pillar symbolism, like the apex dome. Like there's a lot going on here, and then the critters are kind of like under the floor. But the C merged into the R definitely was not like this. Man merged with animal here. This is like the beast system, perhaps. Um, Although to be fair, the A's are perhaps pointing to the right. So I'm not sure if that's necessarily, a good thing or not. This kind of gives me like a beast system vibe, so I would seems like a bad thing, but again, I'm not totally sure. Short circuit. I actually brought this up with Topher the other day. This is definitely Mandela effect. It looks crazy, and it could be about the perhaps the sun is going to be having a shorter circuit soon, like getting into the towards the North Pole. The circuit becomes shorter for anything that's circling around the sun or the moon, or perhaps us. And also a short circuit, that could also imply like this electricity that's coming off, like the plasma, perhaps. There's a lot of things it could mean. I just know that it's a change for now. Mean Streets, this merged. Um, Boys in the Hood, this definitely merged together. Again, we see the H merged into the E. That's always like such a telltale sign of the Mandela effect. There's no way anything would ever have been this way. This looks so crazy. And and then this Thornbirds. I think I think this was like a TV show or like a, but it wasn't like all long like this. I never saw it, but this logo looks different to me. And again, we have like the bird, the thorn, birds. And then this street symbolism, um, the pillars. So like when you have like the three pillars, those are like streets, and that comes into play a lot actually with the JFK Mandela effects. If you want to check that out, check out my Tree of Life video. I get into discussing the streets and the whole situation with the JFK thing and what that means. And these merged for sure. I had this game as a kid, and the logo was not like it didn't have all these offshoots, and it definitely like the S's almost looked like eights. So again, we have streets as a pattern of the Mandela effect. The word street, and the street actually comes up a lot in the Mandela effect, and also this is like 88 symbolism, you know. And here's Streets of Rage 2. It looks like almost 88s, and Streets of Rage 3 looks like 88s. Very interesting. And this is another poster for a movie that I don't think a lot of people have heard of, but it's called Streets of Fire. And for me, this is all definitely merged here, especially this ETS. This looks really off to me. And I also don't remember these up and down arrows. So this could be like, uh, water or ice and fire symbolism as well. And those that also relates to the two twin streets. Practical magic. I can't convince, but this definitely looks Mandela affected to me. This also looks like Vesica Pisces, and also you got like the CC or the 3-3. It's kind of like a backwards E2. There's a lot going on here too. I mean, like this kind of looks like a super tall pillar now with like a star at the top. There's a lot going on there. I mean, the G merging into the T, like you know, like I can't confirm this one because I don't have a strong memory of how it used to be, but I would put it in the definite maybe category. Same with all three of these actually, like Little Women. Notice too, like I didn't talk about this N. Like this N looks merged or different too. Like why would the N have go up on the right and down on the left? It's almost like a as above so below kind of thing. And Phantom of the Opera, you got like the extended R and some merging going on there too. And there's a bunch of different logos for Phantom of the Opera, and I think a bunch of them are Mandela affected in different ways. Ridiculous. I actually have this tape, and it wasn't like this when I first had it. I actually have an older looks the same, but like look at HP Lovecraft's name. like the O basically comes before the L. Like this is obviously not the way it used to be. This giant A looks crazy. The giant V looks crazy. The N going into the U is crazy. The giant M here in the middle, like there's no way it was like this. This one's 100% change for me. Um, this one I'm pretty sure is a change. It's kind of similar to that practical magic one where it's like a vertical merge. The hand that rocks the cradle. So the hand, this symbolism's usually like a kraken type symbol, and then rock comes up a lot too. And of course, Jesus is the rock, but the rock is also like the black rock at the North Pole, and perhaps the cradle, like the cradle of civilization, would be at the North Pole, that type of thing. The winged serpent, Q. This is the W merging into the S like this. Tomb Raider actually changed while I was looking at it because notice how I only have the R and the A merge noted. I'll show you in a second because you can't really see it here, but the E and the R merged together too. And this happened after I was looking at it. And also the T and the O merged. So why wouldn't I have pointed that out? I'm pointing out these merges, and I just only point out this one merge, but there's a merge here and there's a merge here, and probably here too. But definitely here and definitely here. So these two happened after I looked at this with careful, observation. So as I've said before, the more you look at the Mandela effect, the more you care about it, the more you'll see reality change right before your eyes. A lot of times, Mandela effects change the same thing multiple times. Like the Statue of Liberty has been changed a bunch of times. The Thinker statue was changed like at least 3 times. Oh, well, here you can see how the E is merged into the R now. But Dead Zone, this is another Stephen King story. This is kind of like blue beam symbolism too, like North Pole with the mist and all that. And Dead Calm, this is an interesting one too because it's definitely a Mandela effect. There's no way they would like I have this tape and it's definitely not, it definitely was not like this, and they also just wouldn't make the logo like this. It looks completely ridiculous. And you got high seas, deep terror, try to stay calm, a voyage into fear. Rosemary's Baby, this is 100% changed. There's no way that the B and the M were merged together like this. And Rosemary's Baby, it's another story that's kind of like that society movie where all the people around Rosemary, they're all pretending to be normal people, but they're actually a satanic cult who's just lying to her all the time. So it's like being surrounded by a bunch of astronauts or something. Directors and actors like James Cameron. This has got some heavy merging, and also the S didn't come down like this either, and like points to it too. Like this E didn't come down like this, and the R wasn't broken like this. This just it looked like a nice logo. Like the C, I think was bigger, and maybe the E was bigger, but definitely not the S. Just went straight across right here. And a lot of Dracula logos are merged, too. Usually the R and the A and the L and the A. Uh, and there might even be some smaller ones like the U and into the L. And even this MCA logo, it wasn't like this. The CA definitely were not merged, and I'm pretty sure the A. I'm not sure if it had a crossbar or not, to be honest. But the C together like this. All right, so ordinary heroes. I think this basically, and you can see the letters all merged together. This Y here is also strange, where it's like you have like the thick letter, but then there's like a gap. That's kind of odd too. And village people, this also describes us because the village is like the camp of the saints essentially at the North Pole. So you have like the L merged into the A, the PEO. This E into the O is definitely not the way it would have been. And then I talked about the new sixth member too. There's a whole crazy backstory to that, but I don't want to get too into it now. But I talked about it previously. So here we have the game. This is like a vertical merge. It's not really that big of a merge. I'm not going to say 100%, but I think it is. Same thing with trading day, the R into the A. So these could represent, what the world that we're in. It's like a game of chess essentially, and it's like a puzzle. We're putting together the pieces of this puzzle, and it's also like training day. Like we're being spiritually trained essentially to evolve and become something bigger and better than what we used to be for the world ahead. And this one is a 100% change for me. This player strategy guide. um, I had a few of these as a kid, and they're just all separate. They weren't all merged together like this. So again, we're like the player perhaps, and the Mandela effects like our guide. Battlestar Galactica. I can't confirm this one, but it certainly seems like a Mandela effect with a lot of merging L into A, CT, CA, and A is turning into these broken or open deltas. That's another pattern of the Mandela effect too that I'll get into. Oops. Um, Starburst. You have again with the star. Starter with the star. Star is Born. I'll go through these a little quicker. You can pause on your own if you want to see them a little bit longer. Brave Star. So again, we have the H into the E. This is such a telltale sign of the Mandela effect. But again, the R with the A, the delta A. Logan's Run. This is a 100%er for me. This A was just normal and separate, but now it's merged into the G, like we saw with I Gave Them a Sword. And as I mentioned before, the word Logan means a little cave or a small cave. So when we run to our small cave, which is our pineal organ, we're merging with God. So it's a pretty powerful message if that's what it is. Inner space, this is merged, and our inner space is the space in our head, of course. And again, we got Steven Spielberg and Joe Dante, the guy who made Gremlins, same characters making this movie. And this is all about going into our inner space. All that jazz has a ton of mergings and, you know, L's under L's. I call it like a low L, perhaps. And that also ties to some other changes as well, but I don't want to get into that. Find, you know, edges and Trump the game. So this is like Trump's like the big boss of this game. That's why all the predictive programming is all about Trump, or he's like the main character in this predictive program. Back to the Future and Mario Brothers and Gremlins and the Lego Movie. All sorts of things. I would say Breaking Bad. A lot of things. It's all this Trump character. Mars Attacks. So here also we have Trump Ice, and this is really strange. You got the longer R, and then the U. It's almost like a backwards J now. It's not even a U anymore. So that's pretty strange. And this triple shine, this is like a makeup, and it's got like the vertical merge. And the triple shine, it might relate to like the three shining lights that are associated with the apex dome. And then Sunkissed now looks more like Sin-Kissed. So again, like the U, it turns more into like an I here. Like it's just totally merged into the N. And this could be like extended as well too. I'm not sure, but definitely Sunkissed was not like this. So these I've talked about. They all essentially refer to the Garden of Eden. Not so much. Lift does, of course, but Oakley is a meadow of oak trees in black and white, which is the central pillar. Mead is short for meadow, and again with the black and white, like the central pillar. This is like that fly agaric coloring, red and white, and like to lift up, perhaps. The F and the T. They actually made a new logo now because this looks so ridiculous. And then Lee also means a meadow, and that's merged together as well. You got like the double E's. Um, Red hot merged together. So this D kind of looks like an O, and it's merged into the H. Rayovac looks merged to me. Saturn for sure. So this is the car company Saturn. So the A turned into a lambda, and I'll talk about that in a future video when I talk about the North Pole mountain, because there's a ton of Mandela effects that refer to the North Pole mountain, and I think that these lambda A's are one of them. And Saturn is essentially the apex dome. It's like the all-seeing eye over the Earth, and it's also the top of the left pillar. And of course, our world is right now being run by the left pillar. So the left pillar is the north pillar, and the right pillar is the south pillar. So what we have at the center of the world right now is the North Pole. But I think when things flip and get reset, and Jesus returns to the world, it'll basically become the South Pole, because it's going to be ruled by the South Pillar instead of the North Pillar. But right now, we've been living in a world run by Saturn essentially, and you can see this U merging into the R. And SanDisk, which is like a digital media company, the N now merges into the D, and the D lost its bar on the left. And the original name of SanDisk was SunDisk, so that could come into play with this also. Paperboy, this one's a huge one for me. This is a 100 percenter. So all these letters are merged together. You also have this weird offshoot on the Y. It almost makes it look like a Z or something. And then this O is bigger. So this is huge for me. Um, Actually, I have this game as well, like the box and everything. Too. This one changed after I carefully observed it. So when I put this on here, the E and the T were merged, the E and the S were merged, but it didn't have these longer letters. Like the L wasn't way up here. Up the L go. I know for a fact that it was not like this. Looked at it, and Wizard of Oz has a bunch of different logos, and most of them have. You can see the Z into the A here. And these aren't like merged together, but I just find it hard to believe that they would put the Z. I've seen it where like the Z is inside of the O, and that I could see as being the way it was designed to be, but this is just strange. But the Z and the A, regardless, seem like they're merged. And I have other examples of Wizard of Oz logos. One that I know for a fact changed because it's something that changed in my possession, but I'll show you that a different time. So here's what a Paperboy looks like. Uh, just like the actual game cartridge and the manual. Uh, the official logo looks like all the way back through time. You can't even read it. This is a game for like 5-year olds. Like, there's no way it was like this. It's like for kids who can barely read. And they're gonna merge the letters together. Like no way, zero chance. And again, paper, new beginnings. So this is a positive message in my opinion. So I think that's why the O is bigger. So cream of wheat. I think this relates to like the wheat and the tares or the cream of the crop. You have the E and the A merged, the extended R, extended A down here. WD-40. I don't remember the W and the D merged together. I think Moneybags might have a video on this one, but if you look it up or if you just know it, WD stands for water displacement. So again, this is like the central pillar, which is like the water pillar, and we're going to be like displaced. So we either go like above the water like Jesus, or we sink down into the water and go to the abyss with the Kraken, essentially. Is that so Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, I talked about that before with the 3 R's merging down. And this Midas one, I think I showed it before, but my camera was covering it. But you could see the A and the S are definitely merged, and there might be some other changes too, like this angle on the I and the longer M, perhaps. But it also means like the golden touch, So there's something to that. Um, Drakkar Noir is merged together. This essentially means the Black Dragon. Black and Decker has LNA merge. LNA is a typical Mandela effect. Meet the Parents. This is like we merge at the central pillar. We meet basically God, and or the devil. I guess we meet both of them really, and then we choose which one we want to be with. And this is also like how John Wick was on the Vesica Pisces character and a devil character. So here, the Secret Garden extended R's, and the S merged into the G here, and this is of course referencing the Garden of Paradise, and it's like they're under a dome. And TJ Maxx, I had a TJ Maxx pretty close to me growing up, and it 100% was not like this with the two X's. This could also be like a double cross type of symbol. Let's see. Orion was not like this with the R and the I merged. United Van Lines wasn't like this, and this is like the Columbia coloring with the blue, yellow, and white. So, it's like you were united at the center with the blue beam. And oops, and Showtime. Put those up here so you can see them. So the WTI are merged. This is kind of like an eclipse symbol. It's also like an eye symbol, and it's also like that fly agaric red and white coloring. So it's like essentially, in my opinion, God saying, "Hey, it's showtime." You're either going to evolve, sink or swim, essentially, or rise above the water, hopefully. Oh, and also Soul Train in the middle here. I don't want to forget that. This is a huge one. The word soul and the word train are huge symbols of the world script. They're also huge patterns of the Mandela effect. And this is like unreadable. There's a zero chance that Soul Train looked like this with the S, O, and U merged together. There might be some other changes too, but definitely this SOU. And the word, like I said, the word soul is one of the biggest words in the Mandela effect. And, I'll be getting into that in the future. Moneybags has a video on Albertsons. The R and the T merged together, and I think this may have changed since his video. I don't quite remember, but I don't remember this like notch being taken out of the A right here. So that's strange. And the word Albert, it means noble, bright, and famous. So it's like the son of noble and no, the son of like nobility and brightness. So, just saying that's possible for the explanation. You also have the blue and white coloring, which is like the Columbia colors, and this is kind of like a like a blooming pyramidal mountain design. Excuse me for a second. All right. Beauty and the Beast. This is the newer like live action one with Emma Watson, and you kind of have like the masculine left pillar and the feminine right pillar. But what's interesting, so you can see the E and the A merging, and basically A's merging with things is a huge Mandela effect pattern. It's usually with E's, L's, R's, and of course some other things. And I think the A is like our third eye or a capstone. And what's interesting too about this title is the three pillars. The left pillar is strength, and the right pillar is beauty. And sorry, my voice is kind of going. And the central pillar is wisdom. So the left pillar, I would also say, is like the beast system, like the animalistic side of man, because that's like the physical pillar, and anything associated with like the beast system is generally left pillar. So beauty being the right pillar and the beast being the left pillar. I think that's why this merged. And this is one to keep an eye on. So I just included it here because it doesn't seem to have a Mandela effect. This is like the old Disney VHS for the animation movie. And I would just keep this in mind because I don't see anything here I would point out as a Mandela effect. But because of that right and left pillar symbolism, I would expect some kind of merging to happen here. Christmas in Connecticut. There's a ton of Christmas related Mandela effects. Um, let me okay, I just wanted to look up what Connecticut means. It looks like it means along a river or like beside a long river, so it's water related. And the river could be like the central pillar too. That's probably why they have like the river Styx thing too, because at the bottom is like Hades. Um, but you can see the H merged into the R. And, the T is probably bigger too. Like, this isn't a logo that I can, claim that I knew beforehand because I probably never even saw it. But when you see, like, 2 letters merged into each other like this, that's like a very clear Mandela effect. And, because this is like a family movie, I assume, like, why would they get all fancy and ridiculous with the logo? And also the word Christmas is like Christ mass or a mass of Christ, which could be like the blue beam. It could also be like a mass of us, like Christ conscious, people. So that's why I think there's so many Christmas related Mandela effects, and I'll obviously be talking about that in the future at some point, maybe around Christmas time. I usually don't care about holidays and relating stuff to the holidays, but it might just happen at that time. So syntax, this changed. You have the A and the S and the N and the T, and the A is probably bigger as well. Um, did oh, what is that? Shoot, sorry. I thought I put down what that means. Let me see. Okay, yeah. Oh, I wrote it down on the thing. That's right. Yeah, so a cinta is like Spanish for a ribbon or a tape or a sash. So that might come into play as to why this changed. But it's also about uniform. They're like a uniform company. So, just things to keep in mind because I certainly don't know what all these different changes mean. I think I have a good idea for a lot of them, but there's definitely also a lot where I don't yet. But I always, and I, advise this to anyone. I always ask God, for more discernment and understanding on these things. And sometimes I'll even ask Him for, the meanings to specific Mandela effect changes. Like, I asked for like the Lisa saxophone change from The Simpsons, and like pretty much instantaneously, it got just, like, shot right into my head where I was like, "Oh, okay, I get it, that's what it means," and before that, I didn't know what it meant. So, God definitely hears our prayers, and if He doesn't answer certain things, then there's likely a reason. This is all like a rollout of us understanding things at certain times, and there are certain things that we just might not be able or not ready yet to understand. It kinda has to play out a certain way. But Colonial Penn, you got the C into the O. This is like the movie Contact, which I might show in the future in this folder. But here, the N and the N, like this is definitely Mandela affected. There's a lot of interesting definitions for the word colony. Okay, yeah, so here's a contact, that same CO. This definitely was not like this. I know it's a small change, but it just wasn't like this. And what's contact about? It's all about, um, they obviously say it's aliens, but it's contacting God. Um, she when she contacts the quote unquote alien, it appears to her as her dead father or her spiritual father on the shores of paradise. They're on like a beach. Yeah, and this I found interesting when I went to get that poster. This other, I think it's like a fan made poster, or maybe it's like a French poster. But here you have like the Vesica Pisces symbolism, and this is like the communications tower, like the North Pole Mountain, and we put out this signal, and then God would be up here, and this is like an eclipse or like the apex dome, and it merges with this concentric, Vesica Pisces, circling. So whoever made this, either they know about all this symbolism or, the world script was just flowing through their creativity. But, very interesting poster. This is like exactly how I would this part, in my opinion, because, this bottom portion of it would come up just like the top portion goes down here. It wouldn't just merge into the A like this. And then, these look, of course, dream works. It's like, if we're in a dream, we're doing our works. And this is like, when our work is done, we get to go home, like the dwarves song that changed in Snow White. Giants, um, the football team, this is a definite merge. And friends are Giants fans, and I've seen the Giants like this. I mean, you could barely even tell this is a T. It looks like almost like an I. You could see that it's at least 1990. That's ever since I cared about it. You can see it's like this. Kia Sportage. You could see, so the word, yeah, that's interesting in and of itself, because this used to have a crossbar on the A, and I don't think it had these left pointing things. It's kind of like what I showed you guys with the LL Cool J album Bad, where there was like these like left little notches on the letters. But this Sportage is definitely merged. The R doesn't even have like a left you know leg more. It just goes right into the O. And the word Kia, so this is interesting too, because the first time I looked up Kia, when I first started my videos, I looked it up on Google and it said it meant mountain. So that's what I went with and told people. And now if you look it up, it means to arise from Asia, which is fine because that's like the Korean word. But now it says it means anointed or Christ bearer. And there's some other things too, like hope, rare, sky. Um, but I mean, anointed and Christ bearer. I think that's pretty significant when it comes to all this symbolism. And so it says, it also means to arise from Asia. So what does Asia mean? It Now, when people think of East, they think of the normal cardinal direction east. But one thing I learned from Jay Dreamer's channel is um, s- esoterically, with all this symbol, like when you read the Bible and stuff like that, when it says something is east, it's talking about up. So that's why I say north and south are the left and the right pillars, respectively, and west is down towards the abyss, and east is up, towards paradise, towards heaven. So this means Kia means to arise from Asia. So it's like arising, in this eastward direction. Let's put it that way. And the A becoming this lambda symbol, in my opinion, is the mountain. So it's referencing the mountain. So originally it even said Kia meant mountain. But now it doesn't say that anymore on Google. But this mountain symbolism is like rising up, from the east or to the east. And here you see the sportage on the cars. This looks ridiculous. Like, why would the R be like this? And the other letters merged too. And you could look at this too, like sport age. Like the age of sport. Something along those lines. And it's also tied to the Kia Mandela effect too. It's like a subset. So this author Ursula K. Le Guin or Lewin, um, she, knows some stuff. I don't know anything about her, but lots of interesting symbolism in her book covers. This is kind of like the Emerald City at the North Pole type of symbolism. This is your cat eye Vesica Pisces eclipse symbolism, like the Eye of Sauron also. But here, this is a book I've never seen before, so I can't say that I saw it change or anything, but I mean, would they really make a a book logo like this that's, a PBS drama special? I mean, you got the L into the A like we've seen, the T into the H, then the H goes directly into the E, so the H is almost not even existent here, and then you have the H merged directly into the E, the A merged right into the V, like, so the V almost doesn't even really exist, and same thing with the N, it doesn't have a leg here, so and, the word lathe is, interesting too, let me just, well, it's a woodworking tool that basically shapes something on a horizontal axis that's rotating, or so you're, like, rotating, something around an axis, like a wooden lathe. But just think about that in terms of the Earth itself, in terms of us perhaps, but also like the apex dome, the concentric circles, that type of thing. I think the symbolism lies there. But this is like really major. We don't normally see this kind of crazy. It's not usually this intense of a merge, but very interesting symbolism, and also even the artwork, of course, is heavily symbolic. Little Buddha, of course, this is, a very symbolic word here, but Buddha actually isn't the part that's Mandela affected. It's the little part. So you have the L going under the I, and then the TT and the L merged together. I guess this is Keanu Reeves. I never even really heard of this movie, frankly, but this is also like, the feminine pillar, the masculine pillar, and this is kind of like a blue beam, like right in the middle, too. Uh, and you even have like the Chris Christ name right on the blue beam, too. So it's interesting. Mizuno, Moneybags has a great video on Mizuno. So the word Mizuno actually means a water field. So again, this is like the central pillar at the North Pole, and the U into the N merged together. Here you can see it here too. And if you're interested in this one, check out Moneybags' video on it. He's got a lot of interesting information on it. Out of Africa, you could see the C into the A merge. Like, this is not a movie where they would just do this with the logo. Pump up the volume. So I think all these letters kind of merge together, but definitely the U into the M. I don't know if anyone's even talked about this one before. Maybe oh, I should say Sandy Diva. I don't know if she's talked about this one, but Sandy Diva has a great channel too. I definitely check her out and subscribe to her. I think her channel is called Sandy Diva Mandela Effects, but she really gets into a lot of these logo changes as well. And I learned and saw a lot of these from her channel. And also back when she was working with Brian McFarland and Teresa Lynch. So I just want to give credit to all three of them because I've learned a lot about these logos from them. Actually, when I started watching Brian's channel, I thought they were going like a little too far with the logo changes. It seemed like a little too particular. But then the more you look at it and the more you see the patterns and everything, the more it becomes clear. And then I was able to start seeing them on my own. So hopefully that happens for you guys if you're, kind of on the fence or having a tough time seeing them for yourself. The more you look at it, the more clear it's going to become. And the more patterns you recognize, the more patterns you'll see in other things. But also, we have the concentric circles, and pump up the volume. I mean, this could also be like how it could be like the pressure under the dome, like the volume under the dome, perhaps. I'm not sure what this means exactly. Here's another cover for it. You could see. I think, like I said, all these letters are merged, but definitely the U and the M. And you can also like so. Let's say like you think that this is how it used to be, then the M should be behind the U and the E. Like, why would they break this pattern? You know, so it definitely was not like this anyway. And also, you got the Christian, perhaps. This is another 100 percenter for me. Um, RBI baseball for Nintendo. Like, look at how crazy this looks with the so you got the three dots, perhaps this is like the three, like the triple shine I was showing before, perhaps. But it stands for like runs batted in. And like, where do you bat those runs in? You bat them into home. And home is paradise or the Garden of Eden. So perhaps this work that we're doing, helping people see the truth and reveal the world script and all that to people, perhaps we're helping people get home. Really, like honestly, like the more you think about the Mandela effect and the more you get into it, there's nothing more important in the whole world than this. Like we're essentially like living in this constructed world where it's like a big test, and God is sending us these extremely incredible messages about our souls being saved. Who will save your souls, like the Jewel song. I mean, it's really, it's almost like inexpressible with words, and how amazing it is. Um, I mean, all I could say is, just take your time and think about it for yourself and ask God for direction. Um, so here, this is an older anime show. I think it might be a movie, but it's called Soul Bianca, and you can barely even read it. I think I did see this a long time ago. I don't really remember anything in it, but I do remember it existing, and I know that it didn't look like this, with the giant C going into the A. Both these A's go in different directions, but the SOL is totally ridiculous, and this is almost like a half Vesica Pisces here with the B. But what this means is a white sun. So like the soul is sun, and then Bianca is white. So that's interesting. Here's another look at it. I guess this might be the second movie. But yeah, no way was it like this. So again, it also shows how these changes are in everyone's culture, all the different countries all around the world. Are there the most with English and the United States? Probably. But everyone's got them. I mean, this is like a Japanese anime that not a lot of people have heard of, but it's pretty big in Japan, or it used to be. A lot of older, middle-aged Japanese people would probably resonate with this one. Terminator Dark Fate. This is definitely merged. You see like the N and the A, the T into the O. You got the A leaning to the left, the T with the E with the there's a lot of like broken letters and crazy stuff going on with this one. And this is like a fairly recent movie. And I've shown like the different Terminator covers, and like all the Terminator logos are pretty much Mandela affected, but they're Mandela affected in like different ways. And it's very interesting. But this is referencing like a dark fate. So welcome to the day after Judgment Day. So a lot going on here. Very, very important, I would say. The Cars. So this is a band. This is like a VHS tape of like either a live performance or maybe like music videos for the Cars, and it's called Heartbeat City. So the heart, that's the central North Pole Emerald City area, and the city, of course, I think represents the pillars. So when the twin cities or twin pillars merged into the one city, that's the central North Pole city, which is like the Emerald City, which is also related to the heart, which is the green emerald colored chakra. And oops, sorry. And the logo for the cars, you have the H merging in with the E, the C, the A, the R, the S. It's all merged together for really like no reason. And like I said, when you see the H and the E merge together in the word that's, telltale Mandela effect sign. And what are cars? Cars are vehicles or vessels. I mean, a vessel is generally like a water vehicle, and then the vehicle is like a land vessel essentially, but they're all symbolic of our body, our temple, what we're in as we're moving, towards the center essentially. And also this Warner here, I talked about this before, how the W and the A are merged together. It definitely was not like this. There's zero chance it was like this. This is an interesting one too. This is an older movie called The Medusa Touch. And the Medusa Touch. So here we have like the one eye symbolism. This is like plasma, like kraken tentacles essentially. Um, and Medusa is essentially named or symbolic of the kraken, because the what's probably going to happen during the plasma apocalypse is that these kraken tentacles will come down and petrify things. Like Medusa is said to petrify you if you look at her. So there might be a thing too where we're not supposed to look at the kraken tentacles. I'm not too worried about stuff like that, because I think God is going to tell us what to do when the time is right. Um, whether we're supposed to look at it or not look at it, or go up into the sky or not go up into the sky, or there's a lot of different opinions and possibilities. But I think the only thing that we really need to focus on is just being as close in communication with God as we can, and then when the stuff hits the fan, God will tell us what to do. But yeah, you can see the H and the E merge together, and a lot of other merging, the S into the C. And here's another cover, which is pretty interesting, with like the plasma symbolism, and again with the same merged logo. And again, I think this is referencing how a lot of this world is going to become stone or petrified. And that's like the Stairway to Heaven Mandela effect, where it said it used to say everything still turns to gold, but now it says everything still turns to stone, something like that. U-Haul, the dash merged into the H. Here's like an older, like 1990s U-Haul, where you can see they always had this logo. Xbox, same thing. So here we have like the box or the cube symbolism, and the X, which is like the North Pole, and then the dash merged into the B. So here, I think this is the original Xbox. So this was definitely X dash box, but now you can't even really tell that there was a dash. And here with the Xbox One, this is like a newer Xbox. I actually never had an Xbox, but I've seen the commercials, and I've seen them at other people's houses and stuff like that. Um, but here, this was like X dash box, um, but this dash just became part of the B. And here it's a little more visible on this logo than the first one. And we had the eclipses that made the X over the United States. And as I said too, I think the X signifies the North Pole, basically. And these eclipses too, they were exactly 6 years, 6 months, I think 6 weeks and 6 days apart, something like that. I said it in a previous video, but so a lot of this X symbolism. Also, Elon Musk, he's like Mr. North Pole apparently, because he's got X like Twitter, he's got SpaceX, he's got I think the logo for Hyperloop is like an X. Like there's all kinds of his son. He named his son X. Like he's all about this X. So it's something to keep in mind for sure. And I think I'll end the video on this Hellboy stuff. So I rewatched this Hellboy movie maybe like a month or two ago, and I couldn't believe, like, I knew there was going to be world script stuff in it. That's why I wanted to rewatch it, because I saw it a long time ago, like back when it came out, and I really liked it actually. It's actually a pretty good movie to watch if you're interested in like a world script, like superhero type of movie. Um, and this is the first one that came out in like 2004, I think. But man, I was like blown away by how much is in this. So I'm not even going to show you everything that's in it, but it's intense what's in this movie. And I relate this logo to Paperboy, because you could see here it's not merged, but the O is smaller. And here it there is a merging going on. Like, I don't remember it being this merged, and then the O is definitely smaller. So you got, Hellboy with the smaller O, but then Paperboy, which I think is a good message, and you got like the blue and white symbolism as opposed to like the red and black symbolism with the bigger O. So I think these two are related. And Hellboy starts off literally with the Ezekiel wheel symbolism, and the company Revolution produced it. Revolution Studios. And then the first thing they show you is the North Pole mountain island with the water around it. And then they walk under the dome, and here you have the storm and the rain. Then they literally just show you Jesus on the cross. And then one of the main characters here, he's got his own cross, and he's talking in front of Jesus. So here's obviously the Christ symbolism. And then the these Germans are the Antichrist symbol, and also not just their symbol here, but this is the dragon or behind it on the banner. Um, so here, this is a North Pole scene. So here we have the dead tree. So whenever you see like a dead tree like this, it symbolizes the North Pole. So you have like the dead tree with all this Christ symbolism, and then they're under the dome in the storm. So this is all just the same symbolism and all these things. So here, this guy is like the top assassin for the Germans, and he basically represents the V, or the Kraken V, because that's the top, murderer for the beast system. And of course, he's all blacked out. Let's see what I want to show here. Oh, it's funny. So the main that guy with the cross, he's spying on these Germans, and he's got the Vesica Pisces going on because we're seeing the merging of worlds at the North Pole. So a lot of times they show these characters using binoculars, like I showed you in like Back to the Future, because that's an easy way for them to get this Vesica Pisces symbol on the screen, and that's always going to be symbolic of these worlds merging. So you have like the heroes merging with the villains. There are two worlds at this North Pole setting location. Here they highlight, his left eye because he's a destroyer, and they're opening up a portal at the North Pole. And this portal is, again, it looks like the Ezekiel wheels within wheels, like how stars apparently look, and it's likely symbolic of our soul, along those lines. So this is Rasputin, and he's got the black dome umbrella, and he's also attached to these tentacles, and he's got this glove on that he's going to use to open up this portal. So it's kind of hard to see, but this thing is spinning around, and it's like the wheels within wheels, and then all this plasma starts shooting out. So again, we got the North Pole symbolism. He's on the step pyramid with no capstone, or he is the capstone. Then you got like the dead tree right behind him. You got the Ezekiel's wheels spinning around. You got the plasma shooting into it, or from it, and it's a portal. So he opens up this portal. It's all spinning around. And then, this is like the eclipse symbol at the North Pole. And then it opens to space. But when they talk about space, they're talking about like the space, in our heads, essentially, and also the space outside of the dome, of course. And I think to, the space at the North Pole, perhaps. So we got the tentacles, and so this light gets shot out and through. So the light basically gets sucked into the portal, and what does the light show in the darkness is this giant squid creature. So it's basically this frozen kraken creature, and I think there's like several krakens in here, but it's kind of like these frozen like tentacles in space. So here's when the villains realize that the heroes are there, this guy starts, killing everybody, and he's got these two needle weapons, which are like his primary weapons. He does shoot a gun at one point, but his like gun runs out of bullets, and then he starts using these, dagger needle weapons, and then from then on in the movie, he's always using, blades, like we talked about. So here he makes an X with the blades, which is like the North Pole, and he's also got the cross like this. This is like a North Pole symbol for like the X islands, and this is also the skull and bones symbol for the North Pole. And this is also like why like the Bushes started like the skull and bones, and like the Bush Senior was like the head of like Central Intelligence Agency, like Central Intelligence. It's not about the United States, it's about the North Pole. That's like the real Central Intelligence. Like these people are all about working for Lucifer, or the devil, who are at the North Pole and controlling the world, from there. And they're like the Central Intelligence, the skull and bones, it's all North Pole related, because we live in an evil world, unfortunately, but also fortunately, because that's how we grow and evolve, and become, worthy of being in the good world that's coming soon, I think. So here we have this Kraken V character, and he's reaching for this hand grenade so it doesn't blow up this portal. But when you see this hand reaching symbolism, that's also like the Kraken symbolism. And then he gets shot backwards into this pillar, and then this um, needle or a spear gets shot through him and basically kills him. Um, but he comes back later in the movie, and they even call him a puppet. So he's like a spiritual. He becomes like a spiritually dead puppet. So, but this is also the same symbolism that we saw in like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, where like the Kraken character, in those cases it was a spider, but in this case it's a guy who's like the V, needle character, getting impaled with the spear through the center. And here we also have the X cross inside of the circle, and this is also like a sarcophagus type of thing. So it's like the dead North Pole, but behind this they find Hellboy, who's like a kid at this, or like a baby, and then they show the logo, which looks like this in the movie, which is definitely merged together. It's difficult to read, and especially the O is not small like that. Why would they even do that? It's crazy looking. So, and like I said, I think that relates to Paperboy, which now has the bigger O. So these are like opposites. So this is one of the good characters. He's like Hellboy's friend, and they have like these relics in their headquarters, like the spear of Longinus. So they're again, relating that to all the other symbolism that's in this movie. So here, this is one of the main villains that they're up against. It's like this Samael the Desolate. So again, with that desolation keyword, like the desolation of Smog in the Hobbit movie. And there's a lot of interesting stuff if you want to read this too. But it's basically like a dog kraken, and dog is the reverse of God. So it's like the devil kraken. This is basically what it looks like. It's like a giant dog with all these kraken tentacles all over it. And here it is again. So his this is Hellboy, obviously, and his love interest is the blue beam. So I know his name's Hellboy, but he's the hero of the story, and he's in love with the blue beam, and she's in a mental institution. Her, and this could even be like blue beam symbolism or like dome symbolism, but she's definitely asleep under the dome in this room, in this room, and the word room, it's another big symbol that we should always keep in mind, because that's the room in our head. Sleeping, and Rasputin actually like enters her room here and gives her this flashback to make her go crazy. So she has this flashback to when she was a kid, and she's got this red door on her forehead. I think there's like bullies like throwing rocks at her or something. But this red door symbolism comes up in a lot of these movies, as I've shown before in previous live streams. But I'll talk about like the room and the door and all that in a future live stream too, like just that symbolism separately. So here she's out of control because she's got this red door. She doesn't have, any kind of, she's not like spiritually awake, basically. Um, but she is the blue beam, but she's like totally out of control. So she ends up killing all these people with a big explosion. And then they go back to reality where she burns the house down. And this is basically what the Armageddon scenario look like. So if this is the dome and this is the world, then the whole world is essentially going to burn, except at the center where the blue beam is. And this is where the camp of the saints will be protected, in my opinion, by the blue beam. And there may be like pockets of like blue beam. There might be like smaller blue beams around the world, and there could be like the major one at the North Pole, but then smaller ones in different areas. So we'll just have to see what happens. There's a lot of options, but all in all, when it breaks down to their bare minimum symbolism, this is the blue beam under the dome during the plasma apocalypse, and the world is burning all around her. So this is another sketch of this dog kraken creature, and they kind of make him like the tree of life, basically. So here you see like the tree stump with the or trunk with the roots, and then this dog kraken is like coming out of it. This is kind of like apex dome symbolism too, and you also have the moon on the right and the sun on the left. So very interesting stuff in this movie. This is this is like a dog kraken thing again. He's fighting with Hellboy. I think he threw Hellboy through the glass, and he's got like all this glass shards in him now. But this is, the breaking of the dome. Basically, you'll often, almost all of these stories have some kind of glass breaking scene in them. Here's where Hellboy's fighting with the tentacles with the Kraken dog. You'll almost always see the spiral staircase. So in this scene, this is that assassin who's now a puppet, and this guy, he's like the older version of the younger guy who had the cross in the beginning of the movie. So he looks at this guy and he goes, "I see the puppet, but where is the puppet master?" And then Rasputin is like, he's like, "Oh, very good. You know, you could actually tell what's going on in the world. You know, I'm right over here." So he's the puppet master. He's basically, you know, the Antichrist, and he's controlling this puppet, you know, V killer, and this V killer is going down the spiral staircase. You know, a good evolving character would be going up the spiral staircase, but he's descending. So now Rasputin, you know, grabs his head and touches his third eye area to give him a view of the future. And this movie, Hellboy, and Constantine is another one. They have like really what I would call accurate depictions of at least what I think Armageddon is going to look like. So here, you know, they have this newspaper. It says the apocalypse came. And the apocalypse is often synonymous with Armageddon, but the apocalypse means the uncovering or the unveiling. So we've essentially been going through the apocalypse for a long time now because if you're here, then you've probably had, you know, your veil lifted, or it keeps being lifted, you know, more and more as we progress. But that's like the apocalypse inside us. But also, the apocalypse is like the uncovering of the world, which would mean the removal of the dome, which would actually be more synonymous with Armageddon, because that's what's going to create Armageddon, is the dome being released. Um, so then they pan over, or um, move the, you know, over to the left here, and you see the red plasma coming down and these giant kraken tentacles coming down from the sky, and we also have a red sky now. So this is like the earth being destroyed in Armageddon, and the plasma kraken tentacles coming down to possess people basically. And I think this is what the world is going to look like, frankly, at least something like this, when Armageddon happens. So really incredible depiction there. And then Hellboy, he actually is supposed to have these long horns like this, which is like an apex dome kind of symbol. But he normally cuts them off to look more human. But in this future scenario, he's like more, you know, devil looking. Because in order for this to happen, he has to release this Kraken himself. So I'll show you that here in the future. So the older guy dies, who's basically his father figure. So he's kind of like his, you know, spiritual father, like a god figure, and he dies, and or is killed essentially. And now we have like the storm and the black dome umbrellas. Here's this image again. So this is like the end fight of the movie, where the blue beam girl has to fight all these kraken dogs, and dog is the reverse of god, you know. So this is essentially, you know, the concentric circles at the North Pole and the blue beam versus the kraken. So she unloads all this, you know, blue beam energy, and this is like the kraken being destroyed, because you can't, this kraken dog, it's like immortal in the movie, so if you kill one, two more just appear in its place. So it's like it's also called like the Hound of Resurrection or something like that. So again, you know, all this, you know, very fitting symbolism. So she blows all at once essentially with the blue beam, and then she makes this Christ pose while she's doing it, or while she's finishing up with it. She's chained up, similar to like Christ on the cross. And then Rasputin is down here, and he's got like this Ezekiel wheel thing in front of him. And then we also have this huge symbol here. The main takeaway, I would say, is the key, because the key is the blue beam. And the blue beam essentially shoots up and opens the lock of the apex dome, and that's what brings down the dome over the earth. So here's Rasputin in front of this wheels within wheels, Ezekiel wheels symbolism. Here's the pillar that he needs Hellboy to plug into his arm, and word upside down Antichrist cross. And so this is all like, you know, very Antichrist beam. It's going to be more like a red beam. Um, because if this was like a heroic thing, it would be white or something like that. So here the eclipse is starting to happen. So here you see the eclipse. Now he's got the blue beam girl captured, and he's sucking the life force out of her, and he basically kills her. So he tells, Hellboy, if you want her, plug into this pillar over here. So the eclipse, and it has to be during this eclipse. How many movies end with this like end scene where there's an eclipse? I already showed you a couple today, like Cocoon happens, and there was something else to it. It's a lot to keep it in my mind at the same time, but so many movies. Just keep in mind, like something incredible happening, while there's an eclipse happening. Um, so here it's almost the full eclipse, and like his horns, grow out, and then he plugs into this pillar. From this pillar shoots up this giant beam. And like I said, this is more like the Antichrist version of the blue beam. So this beam shoots up, from the earth. Here it comes up and it goes into the apex dome, which is the full moon, which is the eclipse. Basically the sun and the moon are right here, but this is the apex dome, which where they get projected from in the first place. So it hits them, or it hits the moon, and this is like the fifth element. So in the fifth element, you have the union of male and female. This is also Mila Jovovich again, like from the Resident Evil movies and other stuff. And she's a huge, world script actress. So here we have the Rainbow Bridge. They're at the North Pole, step, Pyramid Mountain, where they're like, the capstone of the pyramid, basically. And then she shoots up the beam. It's not, blue. It's more like like a whiter, higher chakra color than, of course, the Antichrist Hellboy one. But so this is like going over the Rainbow Bridge. And so she shoots the blue beam up from this temple, and it comes up from the earth and it hits this apex dome area. Now in this movie, it's a meteor. In Hellboy, it's the full moon, basically the eclipse, but it's the same thing. It's the blue beam shooting up into the apex dome, and then it hits and it makes this huge explosion and shine and wraps around it and all that. And I haven't seen these. I only saw the first Transformers movie a long time ago, but I'm aware that the Transformers movies are Michael Bay again, like The Island, and they have a ton of the symbolism in it. And I think this is from the third Transformers movie called Dark of the Moon. And this tower gets filled with all this plasma energy, and then it shoots up the blue beam basically from this tower, and the blue beam shoots up from the earth and it goes up into the apex dome basically here, but it shoots up from the earth, and this even kind of looks, they're only really showing like a dome. And then the blue beam hits this thing, which I looks like some kind of alien meteorite. I haven't even seen the movie, so I can't tell you exactly what this is, but it's the same symbolism. So the same thing happens in Transformers, the same thing happens in the Fifth Element, and the same thing happens in Hellboy and other stuff too. So going back to Hellboy, here we have the Antichrist beam hitting the eclipse, and this causes the Kraken that I showed you before in quote unquote space to break up all this ice that had it frozen in place, and now it's free to come and descend down onto the earth. So this is all just the Kraken coming back, and then here we see like the downward spiraling tentacles around this beam. I'll call it like the Antichrist beam, I guess. This shot, it's just so crazy what happens in this. So this is all symbolic of the blue beam coming up and the Kraken tentacles coming down. So like there would be like a blue beam of plasma when this happens in real life, shooting up into the sky, and then red Kraken tentacles coming down onto the earth. So here's just a bunch of shots of that. Um, spiral. Oh, so in order to remind him who he is, because he's doing the Antichrist thing here, his friend throws him his cross. So he grabs his cross and he's like, "Remember who you are." And he looks at the cross and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a hero. I'm not like an anti-hero or a villain." So then he unplugs from the pillar, but before that, they showed the pillar shooting up through this dome, basically. So like, how crazy is this symbolism? Um, like, the only thing different from reality, I would say this would be a blue beam like we see in the movie Life Force and a bunch of other movies, but, every movie isn't gonna have the exact same symbolism, and same colors and everything, but, this actually makes sense because this is the Antichrist's will doing this. In real life, this is gonna be Christ's will bringing the dome down, which is the blue coloring. Um, so anyway, he, realizes who he is, the cross, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna do this." So, right before it's finalized and all that, he unplugs his arm from the pillar, and, the Kraken and everything goes away in the sky. But then the Kraken, it turns out, comes out of this Rasputin character because he was just a puppet all along too. He was just like an imposter. He wasn't even like a person. So this Kraken comes out of him, and then it becomes this giant Kraken under the dome, and Hellboy has to fight this giant Kraken with the tentacles. I mean, this movie is like so crazy. Here's all the tentacles, and he ends up exploding it. But in order to defeat the Kraken, he needs a sword, and this is what we see in a lot of movies too. Like I showed you in Guardians of the Galaxy, the character Gamora, she tries to kill it with a gun, but it doesn't work, so she has to go back to using her sword, which does kill the Kraken. This is also like the dome layer symbolism too. So he's looking at the Kraken and he sees this sword behind him, so he grabs the sword, and that's how he defeats the Kraken with the sword. And that's the end of today's presentation. I just wanted to add that Hellboy thing on there because there was so much in it. I just wanted to talk about it, but I mean, it's just totally over the top crazy. Um, but yeah, I haven't really been keeping up with the chat. Sorry, guys. Hey, it's good to see you guys. Matology, Supernatural Bible Changes. It's good to see you all. Hey, Jay Dreamers, what's up, man? Good to see you. Uh, yeah, I appreciate you guys being here. If anyone has any quick questions or anything, I mean, you could always feel free to comment below the video, or send me an email or something if you have any questions. Hey, Forjax, good to see you. Jonah and Jello, Thrash, Curtis, Wendy, Kyle. Good to see all you guys. Nate, hey man, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Matt. Hopefully. Yeah, I'm not feeling too good today, so I guess I'll call it there. Hey, Callum, good to see you. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I recommend him every show pretty much. But if you want to see more about the plasma apocalypse stuff, definitely check out Jay's channel, Jay Dreamers. He's got a ton of amazing information on it, and connections and all kinds of stuff. And he looks at it from like a different angle than I do. We have a lot of the same overlap too. But we all have our different focuses and things like that, and that's how we put the whole puzzle together, through all of our efforts. So I guess I'll say goodbye to you guys, and I wish you all the best. Thanks, Jay. I appreciate it. I wish you guys the best, and God bless you all, and have a good day.